Hey everyone, I'm Michael Damiani, and I recently finished Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker.
Hey, I'm Brad Ellis, and I also recently finished Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker.
I know this series is called Spoiler Mode, and everything we've ever talked on here is like, hey, spoilers. You better be ready for spoilers. You better go check out what we're talking about. I feel from the bottom of my heart, this is the most true of any of them. Like, if you have not played Final Fantasy XIV, you do not need to be watching this. This is like your 10 years of spoilers are coming to fruition here. Please go away if you have not done this. Do not deprive yourself of that awesome experience if you care about story in video games. Otherwise, this is your final warning. Spoiler mode begins now.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Woo! It's finally come and gone. Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. After that last minute delay there, it's a reality, and I'm still processing and like digesting so much from that story. My thoughts are already out there for you to digest. If you're watching this and you've not seen the Easy Allies review, that's pretty much my surface level analysis of Endwalker. It goes beyond just the story, obviously, but I do talk a lot about the story and how I felt about it. What I have not heard anything from, other than Brad occasionally being, that was cool, like just like messing with me, dude, that was sick. I don't know how you feel about Endwalker, Brad, and I don't think anyone else does, so I'm kind of curious to know how you feel about Endwalker now that you've completed that journey yourself.
Yeah, well, it was really, really, really good. And I feel, when I beat it, Damiani, I felt full. I felt satisfied. I was like, yes.
That's so good.
I feel good, yeah.
I was so worried that despite like I had so much hope, and I believed in Endwalker. I know that sounds like bias, but everything that has led up to this, especially like from the people who work on this game, just gave me all they just had all the credibility there that this can stick the landing. Like they're capable. So many times in the past, I've bought into a hype machine or just like believe that something was going to deliver, whether it's a movie, a TV show, and the ultimate payoffs. And the only time it's ever come close and did like landed it for me was ironically Endgame with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay.
But that was insanity. Like that was like multi-million-dollar machine, some of the best talent, like being given like the keys to the kingdom to take all the time and all the resources they need. I understand that 14 is a big deal, but I'm like, it's not Marvel, it's not Disney. Like, they still have to work within the confines of an old engine. Like, they've been doing this for a long time. Like, is there any burnout there? Like, there were so many things racing through my mind, Brad, about maybe the magic ran out before they could finish this. Like, maybe they don't have to touch anymore. Like, I was like, this is also Square Enix. Like, I know I love Yoshi P, but they like Square Enix has faltered before. Like, even the best of them have like come short. So to see this deliver that, what left me like feeling that way, Brad. Feeling so satisfied. I know that's like an overused word, but this is like the most genuine satisfaction I've had in a long time. I know I said Endgame delivered to that, but like I'm a casual Marvel fan, and within video games, it has been a long time since I had something as satisfying as this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been like, what, 10 years or so, this whole storyline going? Yeah. And it's a risky thing to make it pay off after so long, but honestly, after every expansion, I feel like they've just gotten better, the team, and just learning from everything, and they really did an excellent job of sticking that landing. Because, like, yeah, like you said, it's super hard to do that with such high expectations, but they met them for me.
That is very, very good to hear. We asked for a bunch of patron questions for the spoiler mode, and the patrons answered a call and submitted a bunch of questions for this.
Yeah, good.
I guess, was there anything you wanted to say before we dive into them? Was there anything else you wanted to say about the expansion? Anything that like stood out or anything else?
I like really enjoyed this for the most part. I pretty much agree with your review. I did watch your review, and I think you kind of hit the mark. I felt like it was excellent overall. There's a few moments where I felt like it could have been trimmed to fat a little bit, where I felt like, this is a little unnecessary. But I feel like overall, I agree with you. I pretty much agree with you on everything with it, especially like Damian. The most hype moment for me, honestly, this whole expansion was the Heidelin fight with the entire trusts, because I did not expect that. And from a lore perspective, just fighting with all these people over like 8 years for me, because I played Realm Reborn, of like knowing these characters and finally getting a fight with them all at the same time was like peak, as Mike would say, like Avengers Assemble moment, where it's just like, yes, this is it. I got chills when it happened the first time.
I was so surprised that they let you do that. Now my memory fails me here, and I tried to track it down. There was a single comment in the video for the review saying that you fought with 7 other trusts before in Memoria Misery, the Varys fight, the Emperor fight back in the if you did the Bozia stuff.
I did not.
The relic, God Save the Queen stuff.
Oh, I didn't do any of that.
I remember the EX fight, but like you do that with your I did that with my static and Party Finder, but I forgot the story version you fought. I'm like, yeah, you probably, I don't remember pairing up with people, so you probably did do that with it. But was it Trust or was it NPCs? Because NPC battles have been happening for a while. You have taken control of other non-playable characters to play as them. I mean, the one that always comes to mind is the first time you take control of Thancred as Gunbreaker in Shadowbringers. But I like, even if it was true, the thing is, that was not a very memorable fight. It was not a pivotal story moment, at least as impactful as this. And the fact is, you can redo this as many times as you want using your trust as well. It is actually a proper part of the trust system, which gives rise to the possibility of what they will do in the future, because as producer and director Naoki Yoshida said, going forward they would like to improve the single player experience of Final Fantasy XIV to make it more possible to play more parts of the story by yourself if you want to. And this was the reason I praised this so much, Brad. I hope it came across in a review, is there's concern that it might feel forced, or that it's just strictly pandering to people who don't want to play with others. Basically it's like an accessibility thing. It's to give people more options. No, I felt compelled to play with the trust. It was so immersive that, and the story was leading to this point. I'm like, this is wrong if I don't play with trust right now. I have to do this. This game makes me I have to do this. And
I feel like that was for all the dungeons and trials where you could do trust. It felt the canon route to me. I'm with these characters that are interacting with me in the story, and I feel like they should be in those fights with me.
I'm glad you felt that. I felt glad when I saw a lot of other people say that is exactly what they did, and I mean primarily for first playthrough experience. I mean, going, I'm not going to do them again with trust, despite, them being improved, but it just opens the door to a lot of possibilities, where the story makes sense to have more characters fight with you, as well as other unique situations like the Metal Gear mission with Thancred.
I love the Metal Gear part.
I prefer, because I brought up Shadowbringer's Thancred fight against Ranjit. And while that initially was kind of cool, those kind of one-on-one fights drag. Every Stormblood fight with Xenos that you couldn't win, those sucked. Those were not fun. Those are some of the lowest points of story, main story quests for me. Because it's you just have to wait here till the game tells you. I could win this battle if you gave me 30 minutes or an hour, but no, at some point, at some threshold, you're gonna trigger a cutscene and I lose. And I'm like, I don't like this in video games. It feels like a waste of time. It doesn't even add tension. Whereas you want to talk about tension, I'm sorry if this is one of the patron questions. I didn't want to get too much before we jumped into them, but I'm still I opened that can of worms now. Out of the cold, quest line where you body swap and you're rushing to try and stop Xenos from getting to your friends. Like that was like the whole point, was feeling like that tension. Even
the
like
pressure.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to, like, am I supposed to lose here? But like I did, like that felt good. It was like eliciting the right response, and I was like questioning it for the right reasons, because I was like freaking out, not because is this gonna drag on forever? Is this tedious? Like and I really like that, and I would love to see more of those. There obviously were fights in these as well, but I think they did a better job, like the Garlemald invasion, or the storming of Garlemald at the beginning, where you do that operation and you take on some of the tempered Garlean soldiers. And it's like a big battle where you're running up and down the lines, you know, to help out different people. It was kind of cool. But
I mean, I welcome all scenarios that aren't just a normal quest of going here, point A to point B, where they mix up the gameplay. Like the body swap thing, I really liked. I liked that sense of tension, and it did feel like that's something that sticks out to me in the campaign, you know, because it's different, and I love stuff like that. But I guess I do get why someone wouldn't like that, because maybe they don't like being thrown in a situation where they don't know what they're supposed to do. Like you were saying, like you didn't know, but I really loved it. I love when they do stuff like that. The only thing I didn't really love that they did different was a lot of the escort or the trail missions.
Yeah, you're not alone with that.
Some of them were okay, but some of them went on for a long time.
So the escort stuff felt like the one with the Julius.
Wait, actually escort them?
Yeah, when in the same one in Garlemald, where you have to cross basically half the zone following him. That one was kind of like whatever. And it was like this. I mean, you could have been accomplished by fade to black cutscene. We're halfway there. All right, your friends didn't follow you. You held up your end of the bargain. Here's where we're going. Fade to black, another cutscene. All right, we're there. I mean, but they did a few more of those types of things, and like those are. I think they could expand those a little bit more. The trailing things, I did see people get annoyed, because if you fail them, you go back, you got to do it again. Sometimes like they have a little cone when they turn around, and so it's like, wait, do I just not be in that cone of vision, or is it like it obviously goes way further? One of them was a side quest. One was the most annoying, was in Razad Han. You have to follow someone down that long corridor that leads like the southeast area, and the dude baits you. The person you're tailing baits you. He like walks ahead, turns around, goes, "What was that? Oh, okay." And goes, "All right, let me hurry to my destination." Starts scurrying ahead, and then immediately turns back around to get you. And I'm like, no. Yeah. But in that one, you have an NPC with you. If you just follow the NPC and literally do what they do, you won't fail it. So I understand. I understand they can be frustrating, and there's definitely room to improve them. But I would love to see more of is like having your party members. I mean, having party members basically.
Yeah,
like
me too.
I thought that's what they were going for in the beginning, when in old Charlian, when you had like Kryle and Graha following you around at the beginning, and you get those little those like sphere areas, those little bubbles where if you go into them,
get dialogue.
Yeah, those regions, and you get like bonus dialogue. I'm like, you know what? This is cool, because this could be used to entice you to go explore, maybe get some bonus stuff. And I kind of like walking around if you're going to make me walk around doing like quests back and forth, having some NPCs with me is great. It's not cool when they use it to force you to walk around so you can't mount, you can't teleport. And I was like, I get it. You don't want me to do this, but you know what? This is how everyone has played this MMO for years. You rush over, like you mount up, you fly to your spot, you warp to a spot. You don't walk. I mean, there are people RP, but it should accommodate everyone, I think. So that's why I hope they amend that a little bit. Maybe the teleporting won't work, but they should let you mount up. And it'd be cool if they had mounts too. Like you mount up, they get a little mount.
I know. I was thinking that. I was thinking about like, man, it'd be sick if you get like different outfits for them too, or something like that, just to make them feel like more of an RPG party member.
If they allowed glamour stuff, because there are some NPCs who can glamour in this game, but I don't know if they'll go that far. But that would be fun.
Yeah, it'd be sick if you could like do like a quest or something to get some different gear for them or something. I don't know, just something small.
Yeah, I could like. It gets your brain kind of like thinking about what they might be doing in the future with that.
Like anything that makes this game feel like it is Final Fantasy to me first before an MMO, and anything that makes it feel like proper Final Fantasy, I'm always in for.
This is a very good segue into our first question about an MMO trying to feel like a Final Fantasy game and maybe making it feel like a single player game. Our first patron question comes from Raul. I've never played Final Fantasy XIV or even MMO. Do you think it's even possible for a newcomer to get into this genre? And
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you are into Final Fantasy, I think you are really going to enjoy Final Fantasy XIV. Just in general,
it's honestly one of the best Final Fantasies. Like just in general, I'm not even talking about like because it's an MMO. Like it's literally one of the best Final Fantasies out there. Like I put it amongst the best, like along with 7 for me and 9 and 6 like that. It's honestly one of the best, and I think if you've played MMOs before. Like, I mean, I played WoW for, like 15 years. You think about, like, how this could be story, and it's, like, they put so much emphasis on getting through like, a campaign, like a proper single-player campaign. And, like, a lot of MMOs don't do that. Like, some toyed with it, but Final Fantasy, like, they really make an effort, like, yo, we want you to experience this like it's a proper Final Fantasy single-player game, but there's multiplayer elements still.
It has so many references to the other Final Fantasy games as well.
It's its own thing, but it also celebrates the series. It's a celebration of the series, but while also not relying on cheap tricks too much.
You get to see reimaginings of classic bosses, different arrangements of classic tunes, whole environments just recreated. Mm-hmm. I mean, just to like tease you like if you play long enough, you might even get to fight Kefka. Like you want to fight the Phantom Train. Like it might be in there.
It's like all these sick bosses that you love from previous Final Fantasy games. Boom, Ultros, like all this great stuff.
Did you like tactics? Are you sad they're not making more tactics? Oh, what I got? Yeah, there might be something for you in this. There has been a lot of real, as you said, like very like tasteful homages paid in this game, and it's just fun to see, and they still have so many, and then like even Endwalker just weaves in a bunch of Final Fantasy IV references and a few Final Fantasy X things.
How did you feel about that? Because Final Fantasy IV is your favorite, right?
Oh yeah, I was having a blast with the references they had. I don't think they went too deep either. I thought they might have gone a little bit further. I mispredicted what the finale would be. I thought it was gonna be something else, and it didn't come to fruition.
I remember you told me about the twins.
That was being a little like.
I was like,
that was me being a troll. Like I was like, I don't think they're literally. I mean, they did do everyone supposedly dies, but faked out. But you could see that a million miles away. Like you knew they weren't dying.
Yeah, of course they were.
They had dead. It was like the oldest like JRPG trope of everyone's sacrificing themselves to let you go ahead, but they're not really dead. They're coming back. But like there weren't too many. The biggest ones were basically having the little Final Fantasy IV medley that plays in you're kind of like the entrance to your new kind of base of operations in Old Charlian. It's a nice little like medley of Final Fantasy IV music.
They had on the moon. There was like Final Fantasy IV music, the town music with all the bunny people.
Even
the
like
battle.
The ways, all the way people were like also a nice nod there. Enemies, like I mean, the first two dungeons, Tower Zot, Tower of Babel, both Final Fantasy IV. Both they had Dr. Luge and his like monster with him. They had the fate, like they even brought the one of the level 90 dungeons that you get unlock after Smileton is a nod to a face you saw on the moon in the original version that people made up myths about, like, oh, it's a secret thing.
Sick.
But then in the advanced versions onward, or I think it was advanced onward, it became a bonus dungeon that you could go to. And so they literally took that and made that.
Yeah, that
was so sick. And I was like, all right, they found some fun ways to do it. But like, it never becomes the dominant narrative element. It's just fun throwback stuff. And lightly weaved in to add some flavor here and there. But it's nice because I was a little bit worried it might go overboard. But I mean, obviously, the moon itself is like in Final Fantasy IV, you go to the moon. So like, I mean, there's a whole zone, but it's not the same. They don't play like the same music on there. I mean, like they went for different music in a lot of places where I thought they might more heavily lean on 4's soundtrack, and they didn't. It was very impressive, honestly. But yes, Raul, I feel like it is as time goes on, more and more it is being designed to cater to people who are more traditional Final Fantasy fans who just want to play. Yeah. They're like, I'd rather just play this by myself, for whatever reason. Like, well, yeah, sure. They are making it easier, and as time goes on, there will definitely be improvements made. But also, it's just a good Final Fantasy themed game on its own.
And it's like, I know the idea of hopping into this game is super daunting because like we know people who it just feels overwhelming to them. Like Mike is just like, there's so much I have to get caught up on. But if you're curious about this game, I really encourage you to take your time nice and slowly and go at your own pace and to just enjoy the story. Don't worry about getting caught up to everyone else. It's not a game where, like so many other MMOs, where the end game is where everything's at. Like, I would argue that, like, to me, the main thing of what I love about this game is going through the story for the first time and experiencing everything. Like, this old content is still valuable, and it's worth going through.
The community is very good, for the most part, about ensuring that if you seek out certain pockets of the community, old content that is not necessarily story related that you might find of interest, but you might think it's like dead, is not necessarily dead. Yeah. There are people who are gathering together and organizing to do like. Now, I mean, even Bozia is now outdated, even though it's like still being used for other means at the moment. But Eureka before it from Stormblood, there are a lot of people who are interested in that. There are a lot of people who are interested in doing old raid content and doing it like normally, as normally as possible nowadays. And there are still people who will be willing to do that stuff and try and give you that experience. So it is definitely possible to experience almost the whole game still, beyond even the main story quests, if you really want to.
It's super crazy. How much old content doesn't feel worthless. Yeah. It's just, it still has value, and I think they've done an incredible job of keeping everything feel relevant still.
Mm-hmm. And it's also the developers, too, that they try and find ways to make old content active in some form, whether they repackage it or they tie it to newer objectives, which is kind of cool. Our next question comes from Carl Martin. Yes, you're doing a spoiler mode for this. What do you hope to see for the future of Final Fantasy XIV? Are you hoping for more self-contained expansions, possibly set on one of the other shards, or a second massive story for the next 7+ years?
So, to me, this is I compared... Stay with me for a second, okay? Final Fantasy XIV's arc, like the Highland Zodiac, reminds me a lot of Kingdom Hearts, where Kingdom Hearts 3 was the end of the Dark Seeker saga, and this was the end of Highland Zodiac. Now, Kingdom Hearts is going to lead into a new kind of story thing, and 14's going to do the same thing. I don't know how long they plan on keeping this game going. Like, it's insanely profitable for them. It's successful for them, so they might ride Final Fantasy XIV for a long time. Like, they could ride this for 10 more years. Easily. But yeah, I do want one more, like, I want a new saga. Like, I want a big storyline, but with each expansion having its own plots that are relevant. Kind of like what they've been doing. Like Heaven's Ward had its own little story, but it leads into the larger narrative and stuff like that. I want that to continue.
There is, I mean, I think it might be nice to do an anthology type installment. I mean, Heaven's Ward kind of felt a little bit like that at first, but now we know it like played a larger part into the bigger storyline. But of all the expansions, it is pretty much the one that I feel is. I mean, I guess Shadowbringers. I mean, and retroactively now, Shadowbringers is super important to everything, and I think it always was because of the involvement of the Ascians. But going to another shard could potentially make it more of a standalone story if they want.
Yeah, totally.
But I also see them, I feel like no matter what they do, there are going to be breadcrumbs laid before you that, you know, dangle the path to a larger storyline. They totally could just do standalone expansions going forward if they really want to. But I think I think they might try and work up to something else. But I think going right into it might be a little bit too soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be, they're not going to beat you over to the head with a story. It's not going to feel huge yet. They're just going to sprinkle crumbs for a little bit.
Yeah, we have a lot. Yeah, like we have a lot of threads that are possibilities. And in fact, it starts in a few months. The Endwalker is over. The Endwalker will not have another 3 patches of like, oh, like there was someone else besides Medion or something, you know, like out there. It's like no, unless they lied to us. Is like no, the threat of the final days and that is in Ascians is supposedly done. I mean, there's Pandemonium that just dropped as well, and there's stuff with Elidibus's that might, I mean, this is a spoiler mode, but there's something that is brand new that just dropped, and I mean, whatever. We saw what happened with, like, we saw Emmett Selk's true self, we saw Heidelin's true self in this. You might see Elidibus's true self in the Pandemonium stuff potentially. It is potentially leading to some stuff, but I think Pandemonium is going to be self-contained. I don't think it's going to go to anything beyond. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is near the end of the MSQ, Emmett Selk appears again before you to kind of aid you one last time, and then ask you a series of questions. And those questions are literally what I think lore enthusiasts have been speculating where Endwalker will go post. It was literally every question every major question out there. Like, have you explored the rest of your own world?
Yeah,
because
he was talking about like a lot of different stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know any of that stuff. Is this where we're going next?
Exactly.
That's kind of sick.
Exactly, Brad.
Like, even the map they show you throughout the game, you could find like on walls and stuff like that. It's like a lot of the world is still covered in clouds.
So yeah, I'm not the biggest lore person either, and I had to pull up like a map. So here's some fun stuff. If you go to the moon, and you look up at Heidelin's the planet. Okay. So the source. If you look at our planet, it rotates. It's very slow, but I thought it was stationary. It rotates. You get to see the southern hemisphere as well. Like it shows you the whole world. I don't think it's the first time in official materials, but I think it might be the first time in game that we've seen a depiction of the whole world, like the continents. And one of the big ones is a southern hemisphere continent called Mericidia, which has been brought up a lot. And a lot of the content, like the Warring Triad stuff, is like all that stuff came from apparently Mericidia. There's another continent like far west of that. Like it's like if you made the map a square, it's like in the southwest, and it's called I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's like Xcalea, like Zalea or Kalia, or I don't know. But like there's a whole thing, and then there's something even west of Eorzea, and like past like our western part, there's like something all the way over there as well. So, and then even in existing places like the Garlean Empire, we just like went to Garlemald. Like we didn't see anything in between. I mean, obviously there's instance content where we have seen some of these different zones, but he even mentioned like the northern frost area, like the frozen areas of Otherd in like the eastern continent. It's like there's a lot left in the source, and like what's going on in these areas. I mean, some of it's been answered, but like maybe we have to assume we don't know everything about those areas whatsoever.
I'm secretly hoping, and I've talked to you about this before, but one of the other like sources is Final Fantasy XI. And I want to go to Vana'diel so bad.
So one of the shards could be Vana'diel. I mean, going to like with the shard stuff, Brad, I don't think you got to play this because it was an optional thing, and I missed out on it. I didn't play it till after Endwalker, but it is a End of Shadowbringer's optional side quest. But it's super important to lore, I feel like. In the final patch, they dropped a bonus quest in the Crystarium, and it is a quest where you find out that there are some survivors from one of the dead shards who are living in the first now, and you team up with them to basically go back and like observe what happened there with the hope that it's alluding to maybe you can save the shards that were like maybe rejoined or like basically we've been like teased that there might be an easier way to travel between shards, not just for yourself. You apparently going to be able to do it easily, but like Y'shtola even talks about like one of the things Y'shtola wants to do post Endwalker is maybe find a way to travel the other shards for everybody, because that's a big question mark is with the Hydaelyn and Zodiark gone. Hydaelyn was the one who sundered the Aetherius into the source and the 13 shards. And it's like, if they're both gone, is this going to cause any problems? Like, is the things going to remain stable? I mean, or is there going to be new opportunities for us to go and maybe fix things? Like, yeah, you're right, Brad. Like, and who's to know that, like, the whole thing about having an open-ended, like, an open book to do whatever they want, like a blank sheet, a blank canvas, those, even the 4 other remaining shards, even if they don't revive the other ones, they can be whatever the heck they want, the developers. And one of them could be like, who's to say one of them's not Vana'diel? Like, if they want, like, screw it, we're gonna make one of them Vana'diel, and like you're going there, we're gonna check it out. It's like
it's I think it's its 20th anniversary next year, so
I mean,
I'm hoping something. Maybe
I don't know if that will quite be it, but I mean, like
even just like give me a damn zone.
I'd love it. Like, even just a zone throwback would be nice, just to like have that. But the point is, they have the possibility not only to make up new worlds within the existing world, that gives them so much creativity and freedom. Let's not forget, I don't think they're gonna go this route just yet. This is probably way down the line. But we got a freaking starship now. We can go to the stars and space. We do. I mean, you do it, Endwalker. But I mean. You might be able to go to another planet or something. Who knows what it is? And now, like the moon, we explored the moon. Maybe there's more to the moon. Who knows? Like there's so much possibility. And I feel like the first thing is they got to set up. They got to do a new setup. Like we have like we are going back to square one here with like setting up a story. And I think they're gonna start smaller, a little bit more simple. And I think they will. I think they stay at home. I think the next expansion will be about dealing with the other mysteries of the source. And then the biggest thing they might do is talk about other shards. But I don't think we're going full like Endwalker just yet with like
not yet.
The craziness. Yeah. So I mean, it's fun. I'm sure. I mean, I know people ahead of time thought the Omega's race and the Dragon's race, their home worlds might be, but Endwalker already addresses them. We saw they fought each other, and like, we know their fates. It's like, oh wow, like this is where everyone thought we were going after Endwalker, and it's like, nah, they're just telling you about it now. You're done. We're not going there. Which makes me think whatever they're doing next is gonna be completely new and different. Yeah, it is something that is not. There isn't a lot of lore out there about just at least if there is, it's like not very definitive, and it's very like nebulous, ambiguous, or it's so dated and out there. Like it's been so long since we've seen those places that who knows what's really going on there, which intrigues me. Next question comes from Lazy Bob. Were there any existing characters that you were disappointed to see not involved or minimally involved in the story? For example, Sid only made a brief appearance towards the end of the expansion. As the game's most prominent Garlean defector, I was surprised he hadn't made an appearance for the Garlemald portions of the story at least. I will say I agree with that, and that probably would be my pick as well. Because in my live playthrough, I kept asking, I was like, where's Sid? Where's his Ironworks team? Where Biggs and Wet? I was like, where are they? Why are they not here? Yeah. But Brett.
That's true. Honestly, my favorite character is Estinian, and he got to be in this game more than ever, so I was pretty happy. Like, I've always been like, where the fuck is Estinian throughout these games? You get him, like, sprinkled in here and there, but, like, he was prominent throughout this, so I was pretty happy. I don't know, like, a lot of the OG leaders from, like, Eorzea kind of show up a little bit, but not, like, a lot.
That's true. As a little PSA to you, Brad, do the role quest in Razan.
I haven't done those yet.
Those
Yeah,
literally are the different city-state storylines of what was going on with them in Endwalker.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might have like dragged down the MSQ a little too, like might have slowed down things a little too much. But if you really want to know what they were doing, it is like 5 pretty meaty quests that cover what was going on there. Now, I don't want to say all of them are great or anything, but like they do give you some story
up a little bit. Yeah, that's nice though. I mean, can't complain. Like, I mean, honestly, it'd be really hard to fit so many damn characters into this, and I think they did a really good job of fitting most of them in already.
Yeah, like even in like Avengers Endgame, a lot of people don't show up till the end either. I will say one character who doesn't like really show up at all, and that would be Lord Hien. The samurai guy from
that's true.
Arthur.
Yeah.
He's in like the ending shot, the credit sequence, like looking up at the Ragnarok as it flies back, and he does send.
He doesn't really
some aid in the lead up to them departing to go to confront Median, but I was like expecting him to have some dialogue and show up at a point, and unless I just forgot, it was just like him and Yugiri not like having like the that much of a presence, like because even like Lise, I think they did as best as they could, because having her a part of like going to Garlemald and being a part of Tower of Babel, and that was nice because she, as a former Scion, it was like I thought she was maybe stick around with us a little bit longer, but I was like, then I realized like no, she's just, this is her part and that's it, and that's fine.
You know what I'd really like is somehow if they could figure out how to do a time skip a little, like even like a year or something like that. I wonder how they could pull that off in an MMO that's like an ever-living thing. I think it'll just be interesting to see these characters just like a couple years in the future, like even Alice and stuff like that, just to see how because they're like what, 16, her and Alphino. It's like I wonder what they'd be like when they're like 18 or 20.
Aging them up. I wonder if they'd keep the same
like all the characters, but I don't know, maybe it's like not necessary. I just think it'd be interesting to see that, like where it makes it feel like part 2 of Final Fantasy XIV.
Well, they're both 16 as of the beginning of A Realm Reborn. So
so they're probably like 18 or 17.
How many years have actually passed, which I'm not entirely
It's hard to tell.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I gotta imagine a few years have probably passed since the start of A Realm Reborn. But yeah, that could be cool to do, like a time skip. I mean, would be like an easy way just to like do a new setup. I think that's a good idea.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. I can't think of any others. Sid, I agree with you, Lazy Bob. Sid was a big disappointment not being there, and then like it was like he's not my favorite character, and not having Hien there was just a little they forgot about this guy, didn't they? That's kind of a bummer. Amaric, I could have used a little bit more Amaric, but he was in
Amaric's
there.
Great.
He was in there pretty decently, and he's also
the role quest, right?
He gets one of the role quests as well, so you get to spend a bunch of time with Amaric, which is very nice. Next one comes from Nick. What other new styles of gameplay would you like to see in the future? I personally love the Metal Gear style mission as Thancred, and when you have to survive as the unnamed Imperial soldier.
Yeah. Different gameplay thing. I don't know. Because you got to be careful with stuff like that, like how crazy you get.
Yeah, I know. I had a friend who was not a fan of the Metal Gear thing. The stealth's not their thing, so they kept like the thing is, if you get seen, I believe all you have to do is just fight, right?
Yeah. But I think you can only get seen a certain amount of times.
So you can,
it's generous, but yeah.
And real quick, they did patch the latest patch 6.01. They did tweak the Out of the Cold, the one about the where you body swapped and you have to go race back to your friends. They adjusted it if you fail. That so when you fail once you can tune down the difficulty. Okay. The 2 lower difficulties actually change the mission. One of them reduces the amount of like rubble, so it's easier to see the objectives,
enemies,
the things you need to collect, and it is a little bit more guiding, and you get way more of the roll action or the instance action. The little like on the controller, it's like R3 for me that you hit, so you get a little bit more. They make it easier.
Man, That was pretty fast if they adjusted it that quickly.
I think they realize that it's not for everyone. Even when you're trying your best and you want someone to experience something because you want them to get it so badly, if your player, it's just not gelling with your player and otherwise are having a great time, you don't want that to hold it back. So let them just advance through it and move on, and like, hey, that's fine. That didn't work for them, but hey, they had a blast with the rest of the expansion, so who cares? You know, that's fine.
One thing they can do that I want is the snowboard segment. Do the snowboard thing, then it unlocks a gold saucer for you later. You can do mini games of snowboarding.
So I would like to see two things. I'd like to see is, because they already have a system in place for a mini game in Gold Saucer that's similar to it, but I'd like to see it maybe branched out into an actual mission. And I'm literally talking about the Fort Condor mini game in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'd love to see some kind of RTS style mission.
Sure, yeah.
Because I thought I heard something about like a special mission near the end of the Garlemald section, but I had no idea what it was. I saw someone mention something. I was like, God damn it. But I was glad I did. I kept thinking it was RTS because, like, when you look at the top of the map, I kept joking, like, this looks like a Valkyria Chronicles design. I'm like, are we doing an RTS? Are we going to do, like, a Valkyria mission? But anyway, that would be interesting. Another thing I'd love to see is a platforming instance, because they also have that in the Gold Saucer as well.
Yeah,
and they have platforming challenges for sightseeing logs. I would be so funny. That. And, like, the easy mode is, if you fail it just starts giving you more, like, bumper bowling. It just, like, puts like safety nets or something to help you.
That sounds fun. I love the platforming.
Like it's just like a frantic mission of trying to like jump and stuff. Like just something goofy like that would be fun. And if like you fail once, it's like, all right, we'll make it easier. Don't worry, we're not gonna keep you here all day. Like just
definitely.
I just like them to do fun stuff within the confines of the gameplay systems they have now. And anything that's just not a one-on-one fight. I just don't really want one-on-one fights anymore.
It'd be cool if they did a turn-based segment.
That would,
I guess.
Okay, that would be
like a little turn-based mini part. Yeah,
man, there's so many things I think you haven't played yet, Brad, because they were time sensitive. They had a dungeon crawler mini game for one of the seasonal events for the one of the Easter events, basically. They've done DDR style. They've done
that's fun.
2 or 3 DDR style. Oh, it's like, I guess it's more like Elite Beat Agent style than DDR, because it's like on screen. You got to like do the prompts as it's like moving across screen and stuff like that. So just vertical dropping.
Yeah.
They've done some pretty fun stuff. It would be really cool if they work some more of that into the MSQ. But yeah, in my opinion, they could sprinkle a little bit more into the next expansion, MSQ.
Yeah,
I could use a little bit more. And again, one-on-one fights, the Xenos fight at the end of this was like all the one-on-one fight I ever need. Like, you gave me the most... I hate this dude. I don't want to deal with him anymore. I want to kill his ass so badly right now. Thank you for this fight. I never want another one-on-one fight again like this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it felt appropriate for Xenos, I think.
Next question comes from Justin. What did you think of the soundtrack, and does it top Shadowbringers in your opinion? Personally, I think Soken completely outdid himself once again and provided another excellent and moving set of compositions. They especially loved the final chapter selection, and I won't get into specifics because some of these might be your answers, but they obviously loved Endwalker's soundtrack more than Shadowbringers, as phenomenal as Shadowbringers was as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like this one more too. Like, I don't recall a bad song throughout this whole thing.
What about the Daytime Labyrinthos theme, the frog thing?
Oh, I like it. I don't know if I would listen to that. I don't know if it would capture the same vibe without being in that environment. To me, it's super appropriate in the zone, but yes, I could see people not like that, but I liked it. I think goofy shit like that's fun sometimes.
That was so goofy. It was so fun.
But like the Charlie and Night theme, I remember at night is like so good.
When that
and like on the moon, and the Last Zone music was great.
Yeah, so there's some really good music in this game, and that's saying something when it comes to the history of Final Fantasy XIV, because they have some really really good songs in Final Fantasy XIV in general. Sorry, I'm trying to look up the name of the last zone song. The funny thing is I had to look up how to pronounce the last zone because it's never spoken, from what I remember. But it's not Thule. It's Ultima Thule. The Thule is pronounced Thule. It's Ultima Thule. So I didn't get that correct.
There's a lot of hard names to say in this.
Oh man,
game.
yeah.
Everyone has there's so many like goofy ass names I can't even pronounce.
The writing team puts me to makes me feel so like inferior and dumb. I feel like I'm in school being educated again when I read some of this. I'm like, God damn. Either like I've not heard that word used since like college, man, and or wow, I actually had to look up a word. What the hell word? Like they know their vocabulary. Their command of the English language is phenomenal. Close in the Distance is the name of the song. And that's the Ultima Thule song that like because that zone is Bloodworth loves context. Bloodworth loves like when music is tied to your environment and like there's like a reason behind why it's there. Not just it sounds great, but like the immersion factor. I'm gonna like use this argument so badly in Game of the Year awards. But like that zone, when you get there, it's like muffled because like you are still being distorted by like being overwhelmed by the dynamis, like that special type of like ether or whatever that relies on your emotions, and you were kind of prepped for it, but like you weren't fully. And as you start to unravel the mysteries of what's going on there and make headway, things become clear, and the way it becomes forward, the song comes into focus until it swells up into that final build up to the final dungeon when you're finally confronting the shades of your past people, giving you like those kind of like lines of like dialogue that kind of.
Oh my god, do you want I think it was like that in like one of the dungeons. It's like all like the spirits of people that have died throughout the series.
Telescope, yeah.
The
ethereal sea.
Horsefant thing with like the shield. I was like, oh dude.
Yeah. These things hit you in the feels pretty hard. But for the music, again, because the music is tied to these emotions, like Answers is usually regarded as like one of the best songs, especially an emotional impact. They also brought it back, and it's like, what's the name of this version? It's Heidelin in the Heidelin trial, Heidelin trial music. It's called like Answers Reply, which is like, oh god, what is it called? Even like the naming conventions of these are like so good. And I'm trying to like look at it's called Your Answer. So it's the song, the original song is called Answers, and it's called Your Answer because the song is it's like you guys don't know how to like stop this. And like the lyrics for like Close in the Distance, someone finally figured it out, and like listening to it, it's like holy shit, these lyrics are so good. Like Close in the Distance, it's like this someone put it best to me when I was playing through it, 80s inspirational music. It's like this power ballad, 80s power ballad, inspirational. And like I kept saying, it reminded me of the song from Bill and Ted When They Get to the Future. They're like, dude, this excellent music. And it's like, it's so like jolly and like full of hope. And I'm like, dude. I was like, this is so good. Like, the Heidelin trial, like the Hades music trial, like so good. As you said, like Old Charlian. I mean, anything else come to mind? 'Cause I could go on for days about the music for
like
this.
just the main theme also for this expansion I really loved.
Footfalls is so good. And then like okay, the end singer music, the final boss music, because freaking Xenos as fucking Shinryu shows up. And it's like, what the hell is going on? And
it's like every theme.
It's
right?
like it's a medley, but the first tune that kicks in is the fucking meme song. I don't know if you're aware of this, Brad.
A meme song?
But the weapon music for Emerald and Diamond, and for Ruby.
Oh, the
ultimate
big fat tacos?
It's the fucking big fat tacos.
Yeah, it's big fat tacos.
They play that as the first song.
Yeah.
There's like this epic version of it. It's like so fucking bombastic, and I'm just like, all right, I am all in on this moment. Let's go. I'm having so much fun right now. But even like the more reserved pieces, like as you said, all of the night themes were pretty much even like the Labyrinthos one, because we're talking like it's just like troll frog croaking music, and like the night, it's like this elegant piano version. It's like, holy shit, like this actually is really good music. And they just, I mean, there's a song that only plays in one spot. It's when you fight Vana in Elpis, the duel. We have the friendly duel with her. It's called Flow, and it's like a version of a song that plays during the ending and later. But this is like a special version of it. And like, I got the orchestrion role for that, and I put it in our house for a little bit, but I've since pulled it for a new song, which do not go into the house, Brad. And if you've heard, if you heard it, ignore it. I gotta go change. I gotta go change it before you go back in the house, because you can't hear this new song. Anyway. Okay. It's just, I can't believe it, because Shadowbringers, come on, like Shadowbringers had the tomorrow, like the ending theme song, like was just like insanely emotional, and that the main theme of Shadowbringers, like when it kicks in for the final fight against Emet-Selch Hades. Like the Ratika Greatwood, Lahi, like everyone thought like that was like, that's like peak Final Fantasy XIV. We can't get past that, and it's like, I just don't know. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the patches go, because some of the best Shadowbringers music did come post-release, like the Seed of Sacrifice and Shiva, the Shiva Extreme music, the Reen version of Shiva. Those songs are so damn good, and in Soken I trust. I'm just gonna say that.
Like, me too.
It's
so can I trust.
Sorry, I can rant and ramble forever about singing the praises of Soken, but please, if he's not working on 16 soundtrack, I feel like as much acclaim as 14 gets, the mainline games will somehow just always grab more attention for some weird reason. Please give him one of the mainline games in the future, just one. Yeah. Just to like,
I mean, even if he doesn't do the entire soundtrack, give him like a couple songs if he wants.
Heck yeah. Next question was someone asked me to make a Google form instead of just asking for this. Sorry, I didn't do that. But your comment did not get eaten by the Patreon monster, so it doesn't look like any worse. Safe. So thank you. Matthew asked, is there a significance to the Black Sparrows that create a path forward at Ultima Thule? Black Sparrows.
It's like the Meteon thing. Like whenever they would like absorb someone, like a sparrow would come out at the end.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So they were basically, it's like they're using the Dynamis to create an illusion to basically, she's trying to make her point to you that like these worlds come to despair, and you are going to too. So like she basically is like, I'm going to give you the gift of not like death, and no one will ever be born again. Because the point is not to kill everyone. No one should ever be born, because life is meaningless. That's the answer she found.
Suffering, yeah.
So the Black Sparrow, I think, is from what I understand, is each of the signs who's giving their life at the moment for you to progress, is basically that was what, like, because Dynamis is an illusion. Like when you're in Thavnair and Razahan, when you come back from the moon, there's not literally meteors, like in Amarat, there weren't literally meteors falling down on the planet and destroying it. It's people conjuring up that imagery. It's basically using your emotions against you to rot out your ether, and you become full of our living beings, the living beings in Hydaelyn and Aetheris, and then when it became sundered, need ether to live. So it deprives you of that, so you die. That's what Y'shtola says, like, they don't exist when you beat the Thavnair boss. It's not because they literally vanished, it's because their ether is gone. Like, but they still existed. It's that they become, like, I believe, unless I'm getting this wrong, they became Dynamis instead. The Dynamis has overtook them, and they're no longer that illusionary form of them, this beast form of them, is what they now become. And it's like, it's not literal. I mean, maybe the monster part is, but like a lot of it is just in your head type stuff, or at least that's what's supposed to be happening. And that what you're seeing in the world is you can't break the illusion. It's like basically they're breaking the illusion for you to move forward. Like, you know, it's an illusion, but like I think like it takes a little bit more than just understanding. I think it takes like countering it. I forget if they're like maybe giving their energy or ether or their version of Dynamis to in the comments. Someone who's better lore expert, go ahead and like
it's complex.
But those sparrows are the media. There's a plural version. Medions, the singular one. Media are the plural version. Those are the ones who already succumbed, and like they've the ones that have been linked together and have come to their conclusion. Like they will become the end singer. Whereas the one when she gains her color, I think that's when her because it's Dynamis. It's reflecting your emotion, like the flower. Remember the Elpis flower?
Yeah, that changed
it's
color.
Changing color. It's reacting to Dynamis. So it's just that. It's like mood ring. Just think too long to read moon ring. So they're black because that's like their emotional state, and each one of those is like one of the media. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the like layman's close as I can give you version. Sorry, Matthew. If someone in the comments has a better, more detailed explanation, please help Matthew out with that. And also, like, me as well, because sometimes lore stuff goes over my head and I have to like rewatch.
Yeah, I'm no lore expert.
This is from another Justin. So it's you know what? It's basically the same question about where we're going after. Well, they want to know what's going on in 6.1 onwards, so even before the next expansion. But you kind of touched upon it, but maybe if you have any final thoughts or any ideas came to mind about specifically, how do you think the game is going to change with the dissolution of the Scions? Do you think it's going to stay that way, or do you think they're coming back together?
I mean, they'll come back at some point. I don't think you're going to get a full-on reunion with all of them for a little bit. Like, I think you'll run along with some of them throughout the series, like Thancred and Urianger you might do something with later on because they're kind of going off doing their own thing. And like Y'shtola you might do something with later on. I'm really hoping they introduce like a new cast of characters. I mean, they probably will introduce new characters, but like new main characters also that kind of fill that role of the Scions. That's what I'm hoping.
I think you will pair up with them here and there. You won't be all together. I think they're saving the reunion for the expansion. I think 7.0 is going to be the reunion, and they'll have a new name. Like, and there might be new members for sure. I think some of them might not permanently come back. I think there's an opportunity for some of them to move on,
kinda
like
go off.
because Lise has moved on. Obviously, I mean, even like other characters have moved on from their previous duties. Like Raban left as being like the right hand of the Sultana in Ul'dah to go back to Alamigo. I could see someone like I think they kind of teased it a little bit with Grahatia in Razanhan when the Sultra, the what's the name for the person who's in charge, the salt tap, or
something like that. Yeah.
Sorry, the person who's pretending, not the homunculus, but the one who dies and is supposed to be in charge for Vitra.
Whatever that title is.
The point I'm trying to make is Grahatia stepped up during that part to lead again, and he was in charge of leading the Crystarium and basically the survivors of the Flood of Light back on the first. With Corvos, the land to the south, his home, which the Garleans, I believe, like conquered and still or I don't know if they currently still have control, but I could see him maybe stepping into another leadership role, and maybe we explore that where he is, because he is with Kryl again, and they're the students of Baldeshian. They're reestablishing that. I could see him maybe either being lost to be more involved with that in terms of studies, or potentially becoming in charge of another place, because he definitely has those qualities. On the flip side, maybe he's being groomed to be the replacement for Urianger, because Urianger is kind of fits the information smart, scholarly role as well. And maybe he's going to sit off and do something else and maybe not come back. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I would be very curious to see about new characters, though, because the existing cast is very loved. It's always very difficult to come up.
Now they are.
But, I mean, they have. Sorry, go ahead.
They have been, but they've been around for a long time. But yeah, they've introduced characters and killed some off.
Yeah, they've clearly capable of making new characters who are memorable and that people want to stick around. Endwalker, I know there were new characters interested in Endwalker. I think because of how much had to be resolved in it, I don't think they were as memorable. I mean, like, let's look at Reen. In Shadowbringers, a lot of people want to see Reen get more involved again. I've definitely seen that sentiment, especially after seeing her again. When you go back to the Ocular, or you need to get back to the Ocular, you get to meet her with her again and talk about what's going on. So, I see I trust that they can make good new characters.
I trust
if they want to go that route. Yeah. And I think you are. I think starting with 6.1, new characters. You're going to have some new characters. And if you didn't do that optional quest in the Crystarium at the end of Shadowbringers that talks about the other shards, you should probably do that because they bring up bring up a bunch of new characters who might... Ooh. I wonder if they are going to be recurring or coming back in some form, because I feel like maybe they are. We'll have to see. Next question comes from Brandon. What backwards revelations happened for you as a result of the abundance of information from the story? Also, as an expansion is largely unfinished with the initial release, what are you anticipating in future patches? So real quick, your second question, Brandon, if you mean story-wise, you said later raid tiers. Oh, so you clarified. Later raid tiers to release Eureka, Bozia, Ishgard Restoration, Deep Dive. So you're talking about content, not story. Okay, that's a fair question. So what content do we expect coming forward? And do you understand their first question about what backwards revelations,
what stuff that made sense once you got all the pieces kind of at the end? I guess just a lot about Heidelin and stuff like that. Me just learning more about her past self and all that stuff and how she became this primal essentially. Just all that stuff like the Mother Crystal. I was like, oh, this is sick.
I think that's the biggest one, honestly. Yeah. A lot of people had some questions about what was going on, what's what's Heidelin's true nature now, and we got to see, a little bit more of the motivation behind that cutscene. The cutscene when she confronts her Amaradian comrades about summoning Zodiark. And she sees how far gone they've the sacrifices they are making. I don't think we understood how much people had to be sacrificed to save the world. It was
half
for Zodiark, right? And then they wanted half more after that. And she was just no, this is enough. You are done. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why she went and summoned, became a primal herself. She became Heidelin, and that was it, right? No, straight up murders, slaughters them, just trying stuff.
Covered in blood.
I was like, okay, this went. I was like, now I get some of this shit. Wow, that was pretty intense. And I think that was a good one. I think it filled in more of the Ascians. More about their culture. We obviously got a lot of that in Shadowbringers, but seeing more of their nature in Elpis, basically help, especially the convocation of the 14, learning about their selection, because they were scouting Hermes to become Fandaniel. It was and the nature of them, how they created life. And how they judged life, there's the whole Hermes arc helped understand. I mean, it was fun seeing Emmett Selk again, and a lot of the stuff with Emmett Selk, we kind of got filled in about he was good natured. Everyone wants to say Gaius is right. It's Emmett Selk was also very right, and I mean, Emmett Selk was this story is almost the story of and I feel Emmett Selk is one of the is the main
key players,
the main character almost of now retroactively.
I mean, he's honestly one of the best characters too. So I ate all of the stuff up with him, and now that he just looks like Xehanort too, was just even more cherry on top for me.
I remember that.
You told me Nomura always finds a way.
Nomura finds a way.
You're it's true. I can't wait for him to show up in Kingdom Hearts 4, dude.
It also, I was just trying to think of something and it just slipped away. But I mean, those were the big ones, honestly. And and maybe another angle to your question, Brandon, one thing I'm looking forward to doing, because I loved it when I did a Realm Reborn replay through a year ago when I played through a Realm Reborn and paid attention to the story again, how much foreshadowing as well as how much is filled in as well. So I can't answer. I feel like I could answer your question a little bit more effectively if I had replayed Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, and even Shadowbringers again, full attention. But like I just didn't do that.
Yeah,
I now want to, at some point when there's maybe a little bit more downtime, play through Endwalker, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers again to see if there are things and I because there was a lot of that in A Realm Reborn once I got having played Shadowbringers. I was like, oh man, it's not even just Shadowbringers, like so much stuff in like Heaven's Ward, especially Stormblood, is just telegraphed so early in the expansions, which makes me wonder what's being telegraphed now. I mean, we covered Emmett Selk's speech about where we might be going next, but like what's being telegraphed even in Endwalker that we haven't caught yet? Maybe hardcore lore enthusiasts like sniff those out already, but like to casual fans of the story, it's like, dude, I can't wait to see like after I play the next expansion. Oh, they were talking about that in Endwalker. Oh man, I can't believe I didn't know that. I catch that. Like I love those moments of revelation, man. They're so good.
Yeah, me too. It's great.
Our next question comes from Foix. What did you think of the story of Xenos and where it ended? Do you think that it undercut the story of Hermes and Meteon at all?
I feel like Xenos, like, to me, it had to end no matter what on a one-on-one duel, because that's what he's been wanting forever. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was pretty goofy when he showed up as a dragon. I was like, what the fuck?
Yes.
I was like, wait, has he always been able to do this? I don't remember this. I thought that was goofy as hell, but
Stormblood. It was Stormblood. That's what he.
I'm glad they got it out. Like they did it though. I felt like he had to die this expansion. If they dragged it out anymore, it would have been a mistake. And I'm glad they ended it.
I'm glad they ended it too. But I will say I don't. To the second part of their question, I don't think it undercut the main.
No, I don't think it did either.
And it's interesting because I didn't like Xenos and Stormblood very much. Only thing I respected about it was they finally had a character who was like your equal in terms of like power and strength, and it was like I was like, okay, but like you've just defeated so many crazy things. I still was like, why am I losing this dude? Like I still don't quite believe it. You're telling me why, but I don't understand why he's so much powerful than me.
Yeah.
And at this point, it was like, yeah, they just want to create an goofy ass anime fight at the end. They wanted your Naruto versus Sasuke fucking fight. I'm like,
well, I loved the Metal Gear Solid 4 fist fight.
Yeah.
That was like, I was like, yes,
punching,
dude.
yeah. Have you seen that as a Lalafell version? It's so funny.
That's really funny. I need to see that.
So the first person who did Zalafel, like I think, or one of the first people to do Zalafel, made a video, and like everyone started watching because it's just so ridiculous looking. Seeing Lalafel fight Xenos like hand to hand like that. I was like, oh,
yeah, that's so awesome.
Okay, it's fun. Yeah, I don't think it does, because also at the same time, it was its own thing, and I felt like once we got to Zodiark and he backed off at that point, from then on forward, Xenos was like just an afterthought. They never forced him into the limelight, and honestly, I always knew like, when is he gonna show up? And like, but like for me, it was just so unlikable. I was glad they weren't trying to like keep here's tabs on him, here's what he's doing now. I'm like, who cares? Like, I don't care. Like, let's focus on these.
I was really hoping they wouldn't make him a good guy at some point where he'd team up with us forever. Like, he'd become a Scion. I was like, please no, I have to kill this man.
You have to die. Next question comes from Beetlehorn. I just want to personally comment that this expansion was very needed after the dark places that Stormblood and Shadowbringers went to. Of course, Enwa was dark too, but I definitely expected a bleak, nihilistic expansion, especially being developed during COVID times. It's nihilistic, sorry. The final zones and the hopes that emanate throughout were unexpected and just what the doctor ordered. I realized that the last 10% of the plot goes bonkers and metaphysical in ways that 14 never was, but that almost all Final Fantasies have turned into in the final stretch. Not just, do you not say Final Fantasy? Just every, like, JRPGs.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was like Xenoblade Chronicles 1 ending. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. We're going off we're jumping the shark here possibly, but not quite the same. Did you guys feel that the final zone of this epic reached the heights of other Final Fantasy finales such as Kefka's Tower, Memoria, or the Northern Crater? What's Memoria?
I don't remember Moria.
Is that?
I don't know that off the
I
top
have to
of my
Google
head.
that. We're fraud.
I don't remember a lot of the
Final
old
Fantasy
zones.
frauds here. I mean, I know a 14 Memoria. Final Fantasy 9, of course. I didn't play through Final Fantasy.
I didn't play 9 since PS1, dude. Or played 3.
Okay, so back to your question. The final zone is absolutely fucking bonkers. It felt. I thought.
Yeah.
I thought like.
I mean,
Go ahead.
to me, yes, it's bonkers, but also, like, the whole fucking thing of Meteon is bonkers, too.
Oh, I mean this in a
I'm
good
like,
bonkers.
oh, it's appropriate.
This is good bonkers. It's earned.
Yeah, it's good
It's
bonkers.
earned bonkers.
It should be bonkers.
I wanted it to go into this direction of bonkers. When I first got there, when I just zoomed the camera around, I'm like, yo, did I get stuck in a Guardians of the Galaxy area? I was like, is this the wrong game?
Yeah, it does
I was
look
like, wait,
one.
wrong game?
Yeah.
And then, like, at the first part, I'm like, yo, this is absolutely how Northern Crater is gonna fucking look in Final 7 Remake.
Oh my God, it's
I
gonna be so
I was like,
sick.
this is it right here. Like, it's so the
Yeah.
same. I was like, God.
Yeah.
Just like, Nomura's like, that's why there's fucking Xehanort in this, because Yoshi P went over to Nomura's like, hey, I need to use Northern Crater for the last zone.
Yeah.
Please don't get upset. What do you want for it? I want Xehanort in your game. Done.
Yeah.
Like, that was the deal they
Well,
made.
it's like he designed one of the characters from Shadow.
Oh, Gaia.
Right?
Yeah, Gaia.
Yeah. He's sneaking in. He always finds a way.
Yeah. I loved it. I want, because we're going to Ultima Thule is like the edge of reality, I believe, is what it
Yeah.
translates to, or the edge of the known existence is what it translates to. And that's where you go. Like, you're going to, like, she's literally, Mion's like, meet me at the edge of existence. It's like the edge of the universe. And
That's very JRPG.
yeah,
It's like a.
and like it was so ambitious what they were trying to do with the zone visually, like have 3 different worlds represented, but yet keep this unified visual theme sort of. It was like, even with my graphics card, dude, there was like some bugginess going on because it was like so insanely like detailed.
Yeah.
Like looking at some of the lighting, like the 14 has shadow problems out the wazoo. That's why I cannot wait for maybe one day for graphic engine update, because shadows glitch out so badly, and it was lighting and shadows that were doing the issue. But from an aesthetic point of view, oh my gosh, it was just like, it was great. I thought seeing Amarant revealed in Tempest was like the previous highlight of a zone, because I'm like, oh, I'm under the ocean here. Yeah, this is kind of cool. But what's this
Bioshock.
what's this cloudy air? Oh yeah, it's Rapture over here. Yeah, like this is pretty sick to see. I thought they weren't gonna be, and then like the end of the final dungeon, when you're above the planet, watching it being annihilated by the end of the final days. I was like, this is like the end of it. Like this visual showpiece right here. We're not gonna top this.
Yeah, visual showpiece.
And the moon, like I thought the moon was gonna be the best. Like, oh,
the moon was a wow moment for sure.
yeah, I was like, the moon is such a wow moment, but Ultima Thule just blows it away. I was like, oh my God, like now I'm scared for the future. I'm like I don't know, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna what do you got left?
They'll think of something.
Yeah, they gotta think of something
crazy.
But in terms of the other thing, thematically, Beetlehorn, it's interesting you point out that like how positive this game's ending was. I think going into Endwalker, I was guilty of it too. I don't know if you were, Brad. I was expecting a lot of deaths. I was like, man, we're killing off characters, because
I thought like 3 Scions would die.
Because they've killed off major characters, not even in the expansion MSQs.
Yeah.
Papalymo dies in the frickin' patch leading up to Stormblood. And it's like,
Right, yeah.
Moonbrita died back in the lead up to Heaven's Ward. Minfilia? Like, Minfilia is like the big one as well. I mean, we've had like the group from the related to the Scions. We've had obviously Horshavant going down was a big one. And then, I mean, even though he was kind of like sort of dead, but not really. It was just like Aether continuing on. Ardbert in Shadowbringers. I mean, you fight them you fight them in a patch back in Stormblood or in Heaven's Ward, but yeah, they've definitely have not shied away from killing off characters, major characters. A lot like they've always killed off secondary characters, but major characters they have not shied away from, and we didn't really get that in this.
Right.
So you had characters who were introduced in this who were killed off, but like the main cast was like plot armor, no deaths.
Yeah, no deaths, man.
But
no deaths.
I like how Beetlehorn phrases it though, that we do go into some dark places in like Stormblood and Shadowbringers where like people have suffered. So many people died. Like I kept saying, like one of the things that wasn't as shocking anymore was the people suffering in Eorzea and in the different regions of the world, because I just came from the first, where this flood of light almost annihilated the world, and the survivors got to live in terror that any day, at any moment, they'd be like not just killed, but turn into these horrifying creatures. And the test, like with the Tessling cutscene, that like that's that's your freaking fate. It's like, okay, that's pretty bleak and fucked up. And meanwhile, there's this place over here in Yulmore where the rich are just partying and stuff and tossing like the poor to their deaths and like making them like be like glorified like jesters for them to earn a chance to maybe taste taste the good life as being a slave. Basically, it's like this world is fucked up, and it's like I've seen this. So I was kind of worried as we got near the end. I'm like, is no one gonna die? But like once the credits rolled, I did feel, you know what? I was like, I feel again satisfied. I don't feel cheated. You know what? I don't think I needed a character death. Like it didn't rob me of anything. I mean, it's good. Like, and like there was a lot on the line there, and I felt the stakes still. So kudos to them for pulling that off.
Yeah.
Got a long one here from Ryan. Thanks for doing this spoiler mode. Excited to listen to it. 2 questions. Okay. That's 2. Why would you say 2 questions? You like up front, you're saying 2. You don't even try and sneak it in with the whole, here's my question. Oh, by the way, also this. You didn't even do that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what your first one is. Before Endwalker, I would have put good money on an eventual expansion covering the origin of the dragons.
Right.
Perhaps even going to the Dragon Star. But the end of this one sort of seems to have nixed that idea with a condensed telling of what went on with the Omicrons and the dragons in the final zone, as well as the Stigma Dreamscape, one of the optional level 90 dungeons. With all the hinting, directing mentions of Mericidia and it being a land of dragons, is it possible this will still be expanded on in the future? But how did you feel overall about the way they covered the material they just talked about? And is going deeper into the Dragon and Omicron lore even something you want in the game? Is this something you want the game to further explore at some point?
Personally, I don't feel like they need to go into it more. Like, I didn't know about a lot of this before anyways, because I mean, I don't know the lore super well. Like, I play through these games when they come out, and that's about it. But I felt it was appropriate. It's cool to get some context on all that stuff. But I'm satisfied with it. Like, I kind of like that they subverted expectations, you know? People thought they were going one way, they're like, nah, we got something else planned. And that gets me excited.
I think we already like said it before. I mean, I was like pleasantly surprised that they covered that lore and that storyline, because they brought it up, and I'm like, wow, we're gonna have to wait till the expansion. Oh no, we're getting it right now. I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of like this, and it, as you said, subverts expectations. So I'm glad they did it as well, because a lot of this expansion is about subverting expectations in a lot of ways. The one thing I will give is that with Mericidia, I read a little bit into it. I mean, obviously it's been mentioned in the game, and I'm aware of it, and it's been part of the background for a bunch of content we've done in the past. But I went and read the entry on it, and as far as I understand, it's currently uninhabited for the most part because it was ravaged during the Allegan era. It was rendered mostly uninhabitable. But it's like, we haven't really seen it, and has anyone recently been there and maybe there's potential there. So I'm open to the possibility that it could be tied to the dragons as well. I mean, I just don't think it's gonna tie into anything in terms of dragons versus Omicrons. I don't think we're ever seeing that again. I think that's done and done. We already had Omega Raid with Omega and Alpha chilling around, and they seem cool with the dragons. Seems like no quarrel there. So
no quarrel.
I think that would be not just. I think it would be. I was gonna say unsatisfying. I think it would be disappointing if they go that direction. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe for lore enthusiasts, there are still mysteries regarding that. Like, they didn't answer everything. They definitely have some more things they need to talk about. I'm kind of more with Brad in that, like, what is presented in the game in the MSQ is really all I fully understand about the narrative and what I pay attention to. A lot of the side stuff, I don't fully immerse myself in the narrative. I'm just like raids and stuff. I'm there for the gameplay. Like, I do watch the stories, but like I'll forget. Like, I honestly couldn't even tell you what the Alexander raid tier storyline. I'm like, Gobbies wanted Alexander for something in time. There was like a time thing at some point. I don't remember. And like, I mean, I remember Coil. It's like, okay, I know Coil. It's Louis Soir. Like, was turn 12 cutscene. Like, you see, like, I mean, the Coil. When I replayed it, I was like, oh god, this is super important to the main MSQ. But like, since then, like the raids haven't been that important. I mean, like Bozio is a pretty important storyline in terms of like the struggle against like the Garleans. It kind of like fills in for like that role, because when you get a Garlemald, you find out what already has happened there. It's like, we're dealing with the aftermath. Like, we didn't build up to this big thing. We kind of built up to dealing with the after effects of it.
Right.
So, but yeah, like, there's a lot of tangential stuff that in the moment I'm like, I pay attention to this stuff, but like the stuff that sticks with me is obviously the biggest plot points of the MSQ. And if that's not enough, then I apologize. But yeah, for some lore enthusiasts out there, I imagine there's definitely mysteries to any of this stuff that's not answered. Yeah. I understand that. I mean, just 14 is not my area of expertise in terms of like the deepest recesses of lore. Like, I don't have every person's name memorized. I don't have like every region's history memorized, unfortunately. But yeah, like, if they want to explore it more and they have a compelling reason, sure. I just the knowledge that Brad and I have, I just like, I can't think of a good enough reason off the top of my head. I just don't have that knowledge, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The second question. They say Kingdom Hearts, so I guess I got to read it. This expansion featured much more of the Ascians, or rather Ancients, with Emmett Selk, Hythlodaeus, Hermes, and Vana than anyone could have expected going in. By the way, I kept thinking I was mishearing because I want to say Vanat, but like it's a soft T, so it's Vana.
Soft T.
It's like an H. I was like, oh, okay. The rate. Shit! Stop! I can't ask you this question because like I can't talk about the new raid tier. Okay, let me move on from that part. Past the raid, this is do you want more of the Ancients and Ascians in the storyline to return in the future? Or do you feel that Endwalker put a good pin on the end of all these characters? Personally, I really enjoyed the Elpis section of the game, but I did have a feeling in the back of my brain that it was all steering precipitously close to becoming Kingdom Hearts. And Emmett Selk's Xemnas look certainly didn't help with that.
Well, I mean, that stuff's over in Kingdom Hearts now. Like, I mean, we don't know 4 yet, but that was the end of the saga. Like, I personally think they shouldn't do any of that stuff going forward for a little bit. I think they should put a pin in that. We should move on to something else now.
I agree. I think they should take a break from it. And I think my optimistic hope is if we want to revisit these characters, the religious or the life belief works of this world, how it works is it's basically reincarnation. When you die, you go back to the ethereal sea, your ether.
It's the life stream. Yeah. You go back to life stream.
And then you come back to another body, and you either, I feel like you either, some people retain their memory. I don't, like the Ascians, like Emmett Selk and them, they retain their memories. In fact, even memories that have been blocked, once they go back to the source and they're purged of those limitations, and they're given, they actually gain all their memories back. So it was kind of interesting. I'm not fully understood how it works, but the point is you get reincarnated. So maybe Emmett Selk or another character who's gone to the ethereal sea comes back in a different like it's a new version of them. It's like not literally them, but it's like their spirit, like the essence of them is back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the characters coming back or anything, but I think the main focus should be on something else.
Yeah. But I'm also like getting at like I don't know if I need to see any more of the past explored anymore for like the Asians. Like I feel like it's been pretty well covered. So like even if they want to like if they want to bring Emmett Self back because people love that character, it's like have him be reincarnated as something else, and like it's like him being different, you know, same, but like we're like there's new things that like, he's a new person, so like he's got the same spirit and memories and stuff, but like he's been thrown into a different situation, so like I want something interesting to learn, like to follow him about. I don't want to be like, oh, there was this other unexplored mystery, I need to come back and we need to work it out. I'm like,
make him a Lalafell.
You played that yes, make Emmett Selk a Lalafell. That would be perfect. That would be excellent. So yeah, I'm with you, Brad. I'm not opposed, but let's take a break from it for a little while. Ulf himself, what was the biggest mind-blown moment for you?
Mind-blowing? I mean, honestly, like I said earlier, the fight with Heidelin was like one of my highest points in the whole game. Just like that whole moment built up. Seeing like the past of the ancients and stuff like actually alive and stuff was super sick too. Because like, you know, they teased a lot of it, or they talked a lot about it in Shadowbringers, you know, seeing the reincarnation, like the fake versions of everything. But seeing like the characters in the flesh was super sick.
Mind-blown parts for me were the fact you fought Zodiark so early.
That was very surprising.
I was like, wait, what? I was surprised we went to the moon so soon. Because when we got to the moon and I saw the zone, I'm like, oh, we're only going to see part of this zone. We're clearly not going to all... There's more to this, and we'll be back later.
Right.
And then like, oh, we're going to have like a little fight here with Xenos or something, and maybe Fandaniel, and we're going to stop them for now, but like... a ticking time clock's going to be introduced at this point, and it's like it's only a matter of time before the Zodiark part happens. It's like, no, we're going full Zodiark right now. You're
Zodiark right now.
You're fighting Zodiark
like
right now.
First trial, I was like, what?
Okay. So,
and he's like dead.
I was like,
you know,
it's like wait,
like never comes back.
I was like, wait, so who's the final? I was like, okay, well, now the final days are going to happen. I get it now because the trailers have like shown this off. I'm like, but then who's behind the like?
And it's like, wait, this bird girl?
What? Oh, yeah.
This bird girl you meet her, like, ends up being like the final villain. I'm like, holy shit.
It's very interesting to talk about Median because with Hermes and Median, like, it's such a great thread line because we've had, I hate villains who are just evil for sake of evil. That's Xenos. I mean, there is a little bit more depth to Xenos apparently, and like, if you go read about his childhood or something, I'm not entirely sure, but like it feels like a played out storyline anyway, even if that's what it is. Sure. Then you have like villains who have like good motivations. Like I always love to point to like Ganon in the Wind Waker. Like he did what he needed to do because he put his people above. He was the ruler of his people. They were suffering. He needed to do something, and he's like, I'm sorry if this is bad, but I was trying to save my people, but like he's been
a villain, you could understand their motive.
Yeah, like good motivations, or people who think they're doing good, but from another perspective, it's bad. This was not even that. This was two people, like a person in his creation who was like, I'm just trying to explore and answer the questions of existence. I'm trying to like I want to know about the value of life, and like I'm coming from a scholarly perspective here. And
it got real intense where they're like, why are you even trying to survive? Like, why do you even cling to life kind of thing? Like, what is the purpose of living? Stuff like that.
Like Hermes was like he was questioning whether it was really okay to even discard their creations because they were like, is this really okay? Or are we just doing this because like it's easy? And like, he's like asking the real hard questions. And then he was innocently trying to like get more insights. Like, well, maybe the answers can't be answered here. Maybe the answers lie with maybe civilizations who are further along than us. And you know, he sent them out. And like, it took Emmett Selk to point out, did you realize that asking your question might be problematic? Like, this is the dilemma. Like when you seek out knowledge, you also have to be careful that like you also are not you're not all knowing. You do not know, like for better or worse, like when you get into like talks of bigger things, it's like you got to be careful, because like nature, there's like, even talking about the context of nature doesn't give a shit about good or evil. Nature just does what nature fucking does. Sometimes it's brutal and like fucked up, and it's like you go looking for these answers, like this might be what the answer is, and like I'm just like, do you not understand like what you're really like, what you're seeking here? Like maybe we're not evolved enough yet to be able to handle this, and like maybe we weren't evolved enough to handle this creation of using this dynamis stuff that like we don't even fully understand yet. Like this like it was like but the point we don't need to get into all this existential stuff just now in this meta stuff. The point was, it came from an honest place of curiosity and not malevolence. It was an effort to seek to better their knowledge and understanding, and hopefully making themselves better. And honestly, I don't think Median, like, while she was like the bad guy, the boss we fight, she wasn't even like I don't know if like it's generally okay to view her as like a villain. Like she wasn't like evil because like it was like
she might be like an AI.
She was like AI who like this.
That.
Yeah, like the programming. This was the conclusion she came to. Everywhere she went, this was the conclusion. So like, okay, this is how the world works. I'm coming back to tell you. And from that conclusion that everything ultimately ends and like it's pointless, it's just better not to exist. That's what the AI answer came up with. It's like, So like a lot of honestly, the blame does lie on Hades a little bit for not like realizing, like, but also like, could he have realized that? Emmett Selk kind of like postured that question, like, do you understand this could lead to this? But like, it's a complicated question, and I've loved watching a lot of the discussions from other people who've played the game struggle to deal with like who really is the villain of this game, and like because so many Final Fantasy games have a clearly defined villain that has like clearly defined motivations for what they're doing, whereas like this isn't so clearly defined so much as is like a product of a series of events that were never meant to be malicious. And I love that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I love that about it, because of like the morality morality debate you get to get into because of it. And I think that's one of the reasons the narratives in Final Fantasy XIV, especially in Endwalker, draw people in, because it's like this isn't playing safe or simple. It's trying to be difficult. It's trying to give you an answer that's going to make you think.
Question things.
Question stuff. Good way to put it. Also the body switch. Sorry, blown away stuff. The body switch. The body switch part. Fun. Like that's like, I know it didn't go anywhere. It was like the most squandered opportunity for the game to go batshit crazy. I was like, okay, this is where they're making Xenos good. I was like, now I get it. Here we go. Oh, it's over. Well, that sucks. And then like, is this going to come back in the later parts of the game? Is there going to be some bullshit where he body steals us again in a key moment and fucks up things? Like, no, this doesn't happen.
Nope,
doesn't happen. Whatever. This comes from Mithers. Did you shed actual real tears? I got glassy-eyed in Shadowbringers, but I cried 5 to 6 times during Endwalker.
No, I don't think games have ever made me really cry though. So, but like I got emotional, definitely. That's
a good way to put it, Brad. I thought maybe there was something wrong with me, because I can get very emotional during games to the point where I will like cry. Sorry, I didn't expect to get a spoiler for another game, but Rime, any game that came out a few years ago, the ending of that game wrecked the shit out of me. I had to like stop playing and go walk off and cry. I was like, okay, I have never played a game that has like hit me this hard. I was like, oh, and I'm not saying what it is, because I still, even though it's spoiler mode, it's not a spoiler mode for Rime. I'm not depriving you of that. That has one of the most like emotionally strong endings. If you want to like cry and you want to know if a video game can make you cry, you should go play Rime and play that ending. Anyway, that it takes like a certain state of mind, and like generally like seeing people suffer, seeing someone lose something they really care about generally elicits that reaction, especially after they've like struggled so much for something. And that has a lot of this, but it's like not people dying loss. This is like loss of like ways of life. Like things will not be going back to the way they were. and like things are changing. I mean, nothing like the world didn't end, but as he was talking about in the end, like our characters are going in different directions. Like we assume they might come back together. They even say like, "Oh, this is superficial. We're disbanding because we just we're going back to how we used to be because." In order to detect new threats, we have to work in the shadows. So we're going to be back to our loose organization. But it's like, maybe they don't come, like they might not come back. Who knows? Like the future. And like this game has shown, it does not shy away from, maybe we're not getting back the Signs of the Seven Dawn ever again. Like the characters will be around, but like you're not getting that. And it's like that it's like that type of like, things are moving on. Like things are different. Things are changing. And there were also some other emotional moments like, seeing Alphino and Alisaie's mom, like meeting her,
I did love
like
that.
It was a different kind of emotional, like not sad. State, it's like, but it's like they have a family, like this, like
just like seeing their parents.
Like it's like they're kids, and then your parents are asking you like, please watch over our kids. Even Forchefant, their father, is like he cries in the ending when they come home, like this cold dad. Who, in the end of the last, leading up to this expansion, like, expelled them, basically. You're hereby stripped of the name. Like, he was doing it because, like, he wanted to protect them, and he was going to that, like, he was just being a dad. I was like,
tell him.
This is dad mode. I was like, holy shit, like, I like, the seeing characters show their raw emotions makes you feel, too, in this game. And, like, I felt it internally a lot, but, like, I don't think... There was one point I felt like I was maybe going to come to tears, but it was like the lead up to the final dungeon because it was like it finally hit me like this is the end of the game. Like we're at the end and like wow, this is like it. This music hitting me at this point. I'm like I'm kind of being overwhelmed right now. This is like and hearing all these lines of dialogue from these shades like kind of like and like these characters kind of cheering like it's like you can do it, push forward, like we're going to like, you know, you're almost there, but otherwise, it was more like mind blowing, like holy shit, that just happened, like emotion, like that kind of raw emotion was what dominated this expansion for me. I got more teary in Shadowbringers. The ending with Grahatia, like because they had a different option. You could not call him by his name in the original MSQ playthrough if you did not do the Crystal Tower series. So like I was like. I started dawning on me. I was like, "What is this? The guy from? Is this?" I was like, "I think I know. I don't know their name, but I was like, this is the cat person, right? I have some vague memory of this." And then when it showed the name, I'm like, "Oh my god, that's them!" And like when they show their face, I was like, "You were the dude we sealed away." I was like, "Oh my god, you still love us after making you do that?" I was like, "Oh my god, you're like, like you are precious." Yeah, so unfortunately, not as many teary-eyed moments for us there, Mithers. Zach says, "I'm a simple man. I want flashy, easy-to-use summoners. I hear mixed things on the summoner changes. For someone who struggles to manage the number of buttons in MMOs, how has your experience with this class been?" And just so you know, Pixelated did chime in, says, "I'm not sure either Damiani or Brad have put much time into Summoner. When I started playing back in July, it was my first job, and I took it all the way to the end. I'd say originally it was a mixed bag, but mostly positive. It's negative that for the vast majority of the game, Summoner plays more simply than I would prefer. Before the changes, I think it was considered... they're talking about now. The only negative is that it feels a little simple to play. Before the Endwalker changes, it was considered one of the more difficult jobs, especially on a controller, which is how I play. At level 88, you finally get an upgrade that makes the cycle way more interesting to go through. A big part of Summoner's rework was cutting down of needing to manage buttons. If that concerns you, you'll be very happy. I can also... Brad, you haven't touched the new Summoner, right?
Nope. I haven't touched Summoner, period.
I will add this. I did the role quest as Summoner. So the 85 through 90 role quest. Because it was the only ranged magical that I had leveled up because it got leveled up because of Scholar. So I did actually level up because of Summoner. And I played at the Media Tour. And I will say, with the level 90 abilities, it feels like a pretty smooth, has a pretty smooth and nice flow to it. I thought OG Summoner was just like so far. OG Red Mage and Summoner felt so different, especially Summoner. Let me keep it to Summoner. Summoner felt so weird and different compared to every other job I had played, like that I was used to playing, that it just, I stayed away from it because I was intimidated because not everyone plays, not everyone, almost nobody, plays every job in Final Fantasy XIV at a proficient level. And I was like, I know how to play Black Mage. I don't need to know how to play Summoner. I feel fine. And every time I try to get back into it, I remember having to do one of the job quests for Summoner at one point and like failed it 3 times because like, I don't know how to play this stupid job. Please help me. And back then, I think you had to fail multiple times before it kicked in like the bonus echo. I'm like, oh, give me the bonus echo. I don't give a shit. I don't know how to play this job. But the Endwalker Summoner, maybe it is more simplified, as Pixelate is saying, potentially. It's like it's easier to play. For me, that's good because when I tried it out, I was like, you know what? I can play this job now. This rotation, I was only fighting single target stuff and the rolled stuff. I didn't have to do AoE stuff, but I think the AoE thing is pretty self-explanatory too. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like the buttons all lead to, they light up and proc you to things, and like the summoning of Titan and Garuda and Ifrit, you summon one of them at a time, their actions light up. You have there's a clearly marked thing that shows how much longer you can use your things, and then like summon the next one, and then you like go through a cycle again, like it's like a Bahamut cycle, get them, and it's like a Phoenix cycle, get back to them, and like you just keep going back and forth between these cycles. I'm like, oh, it's got a good flow. Pretty cool. Yeah, in terms of high level, I can't answer that for anyone. Unfortunately, I don't play it at a high level, but no one really has yet because there's no Savage Raid yet. Talk to people in 2 months. Maybe in 2 months, we'll have a better understanding of where Summoner is at high level. But for casual play, it seems like it's definitely much improved from where it was. Jai asks, so much of the emotional impact of this game has relied on Huber voice bonds. That wasn't a good Huber bond. That wasn't a good Huber voice. That the warrior develops with the Scions over their adventures. Which of the Scions did you feel had the most satisfying story arc? And who do you wish had gotten more development or hope to see more in the future? I think we kind of answered the latter part of that. But the former, which one had the most satisfying arc for you of the Scions?
I don't know. I have a fond attachment for Alphino just because he was like the one you're with the most at the beginning. So I feel like Alphino's like a little brother to me. I feel like with him, I don't know if like anyone had like a crazy character arc this time around that I can recall where I felt like they like really grew as a character. I mean, I guess they all did, but I'm super partial to Alphino.
That's a good one.
Even though he's not my favorite character, but like just like I've been on such a huge, like he's been with you like through everything, like every expansion he's been there with you, by your side. I
was surprised by Urianger because he had to confront Moonbreed.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Moonbreeder's parents. And the reconciliation he had, that it was great how understanding and compassionate they were. Because not only they were suffering, but they knew he was suffering. When they finally meet, like having that understanding, like was very positive to see that type of relationship with them, and seeing that like that resolution to that was, and also like Urianger like going off a little bit, like I want to stay with the Loporrits to help them better understand. Like basically, I felt like he's starting to like. He's always been kind of like independent, but I felt like he was being a little bit more assertive, and like we got to see like an emotional side of him, like a vulnerable side to Urianger. Like when he was confiding in his like his perceived faults. He's like very open about it at points. So I was like nice to get into his mind a little bit. Yeah. I also liked that a little bit with Alisaie. Opening up to Alphino and basically being like, listen, I know I've been like putting on this badass front in front of you. I know we've been at each other at times, and like, I mean, going back to the Realm Reborn days when they basically went their own paths because they disagreed. And she's like, no, I found my purpose. And you know what, Alphino, like, it's like, I know what I need to do. And like, I want to say, like, I understand what you're doing, Alphino, as well. And I support you. and like Alphinaud's like, and like same with Alphinaud, as you're saying, like he supports her, like that brother, like the brother sister bond there was like, it's great. It like they've always been like playing at it, but like it came out in full force in this one. It was very nice to see, and I think to honor Huber, since he was mentioned this question, like I feel like Huber would appreciate the Alphinaud Alisaie bond.
Oh my
so
god,
much.
Huber, would love all this shit. I mean, he really liked A Realm Reborn.
Yeah, and that's like,
oh man,
that's like the
it just gets better.
That's just scratching the surface. Alex asks, "Hi panel. After all you saw and went through, how do you feel about Fandaniel, Hermes, Amon? Something I'm not sure about was Amon a separate character who later got infused with Fandaniel's memories about after being recruited, or was Amon a piece of Fandaniel after sundering? Love and respect." Don't know how well we'll be able to answer the last part of that stuff, but how did you feel about, Hermes and like Fandaniel?
I liked him. I was like, I hope there's more to him than just being like crazy, I want the world to end and everyone to die with me. Like, I'm glad they gave you like some motivation for how he got to that part. And I think it was wise to spend a lot of time with Hermes to see exactly how he got that. And like the idea where I like put it like where stuff was being revealed, like Amon and stuff, I was like, oh shit, dude. All these things are like lining up after all these years. Like, this is crazy.
Dude, that was another mind-blowing moment.
I just thought it was really cool how like they inhabit like a new body or person and they get all their memories and stuff like that. I think that's really sick.
Oh my gosh. So good. Because I mean, now the troll part is every time you do Circus Tower, you're just it's like the Amon fight's like, hey, do you remember? Hey, how's it going, bud? Oh, that was just like a throwaway fight that everyone like was like. But now it's like, oh god, shit. that's Fandaniel Hermes in there. Ah.
Yeah.
I think the only thing to your question, Alex, is maybe because I guess I'm here we go. Pixelated actually stepped in and answers. First, there was the Asian Hermes. He earned the title of Fandaniel. He earned a seat in the convocation. He died and was sundered. Then came the Allegan Amon. He learned that he was the sundered soul of Fandaniel Hermes and was recruited by Emmett Selk to become an Asian. Yeah, I remember that. Amon became the sundered Fandaniel. So, from what I understand, when Hydaelyn sundered Aetheris into the Source and the 13 shards, only Emmett Selk, Elidibus, and Lahabrea were not sundered. They were the unsundered. The other Asians and the rest of the convocation were sundered. So they lost. They lost. Like, their memories were tampered with because of the splitting. So
right.
Yeah, I think that explains why he doesn't have it. It's definitely Emmett Selk and La Brea. I forget if Elidibus is the third one, or if there's any others, but the splitting of the world had an impact on that. And thank you, Pixelated, for chiming in and bailing us out on that other thing. Pixelated is clearly
not
the 14 lore expert of Easy Allies.
Yeah.
Shankly. Okay, Shankly, this is an essay. Shankly is right now. He's like literally FC. I'm in game right now. Hey Shankly, I'm at your question for spoiler mode. This is an essay. Essay. Oh my god, I can't spell S-A. Sorry. Is there maybe something more specific to answer, or do we have to read all of it? You can DM me since it has spoilers. Because this is their first paragraph is longer than almost every other question asked. Then there's a second paragraph that's even longer. Then there's a third paragraph that's almost as long as the first paragraph. Then there's a sentence with a few questions. Then there's another paragraph. And then another sentence.
Well, let's move on.
Shankly, we're gonna come back to this. We'll answer me in game. I'll give you some time. We'll come back to it. Next is Pixelated, actually. Yeah, just DM me if you can. All right, Pixelated. First, a quick comment. Okay, sorry, I read the wrong line. Sorry. First, a quick comment. I take medication for anxiety, and while it does the job on that front, a regrettable side effect that I'm sure others are aware of is that it can dull a lot of your emotions. When it came to playing Final Fantasy XIV, especially these last 2 expansions, it meant that I never once cried. I think, oh, that's sad, or I might slightly tear up, but that is the most I can get. I can say pixelated, definitely understand this as well. A shame this expansion had some really great, beautiful moments, and being able to cry about it makes it land harder and can feel cathartic. On to my question. When rating this from my yearly completion log, I gave it a 9.5 as well. I think it could have hit a 10 if more was done with Xenos. Do you have any ideas on what more you would have liked to have seen done with that character? I really regret that they didn't seem to go deeper into the fact that he was apparently a sundered Ascian soul, like we are with Azim. In post-Shadowbringers patches, we learn he's having dreams of a past Ascian life. That is true. There could have been so much potential with that, but I don't recall any further resolution on that. Now, real quick, were you like aware about the Warrior of Light is supposedly a sundered version of Azim? That's why we bear resemblance.
I probably did at a point. I just don't remember. I don't remember like a lot of stuff from the past expansions like that because I don't replay them and I just play when they come out.
Okay, but so how do you feel about Xenos? Like, is there anything else?
Xenos was okay. To me, he was always the B plot line. But that would have been cool. Maybe just a little more about his origins and stuff like that. But to me, he was just, like I said, he was the B plot line. And I like that he just wanted to have a one-on-one fight with you. Like, that's super anime to me, and I was into that. But I could have gone for just a little bit more, but maybe they didn't want it to be bogged down, especially because he's been in like 3 expansions already.
That's true. I'm answering Shankly really quick. I'm so sorry.
Okay. No problem. But yeah, could have gone for a little more Xenos. A little more motivation, I guess. Maybe it's just there and I just don't remember it all.
It could have been cool if they tied it into the potential that he was a sundered Ascian as well. It could have been like a big twist. The thing, my most obvious thing is, we already talked about it, is I was hoping the body swap thing would go further. That Xenos would get involved with like maybe messing up with things, because all he cares about is one last duel with you. So I was hoping to see the lengths he might go to, even with the world falling around, like all around you. He would still intervene and like make things even worse just to force your hand. I was expecting
he
that.
was like content with just waiting for you to be ready or helping you get your stuff done to fight you.
Yeah. Oh well, and you know what the funny thing is, Brad? Xenos is lying there dead, but like we just leave him there. There's a chance he could always come back.
He could, but I hope he doesn't come back the same way.
I hope he doesn't either. I hope he stays there. I hope he just stays there and never comes back. All right, got 2 more questions and Shankly's question. All right, this next one comes from Konat. Thanks, Damiani and Brad, for the quick spoiler mode. Glad it's just you and Brad. Oh, what? We definitely wanted.
Well, no one else has played
we
for
wanted
it
more people, but
it.
like it's a like other Ben's been pretty busy as well. He had Halo. He was working on finishing up Pokemon as well. Ben will get to Endwalker at some point.
As far as I'm aware.
He'll probably get to it at some point. But yeah, it's just a matter of like who's been able to play it. But yeah,
it's just me and Damiani pretty much that are caught up or play it.
Oh, I get what they mean. There's a second sentence I didn't read. We were talking about Ben not being here. A lot of times when you bring guests over for spoiler modes, they completely take over the show and the allies' opinions never get brought up. I think they were worried I was going to bring on a 14 content creator because I said I was going to try and do that week 1, but I decided not to because a bunch of content creators delayed playing through the story. And a few of them that I thought might be interested in like actually doing it are still behind. There's a few that are still trying to even catch up to start Endwalker. So it didn't seem like the best thing in practice to do. So I understand that. But sometimes, the guests do bring interesting perspectives. So it's a balancing act, All I ask is for you to take the spoiler mode step by step through the expansion. No.
That'd be a lot.
With you and both you and Brad giving your thoughts on each thing that happens chronologically. God damn.
Well,
Without
jumping
jumping around and getting sidetracked, it'll help the show streamline and cover everything without missing out stuff. This is funny because I think the most vocal about not doing that in the past has been Isla. A few spoiler modes I've been on with her and the others, she will bring up that we should just talk about what we want to talk about. Like, what are we passionate about with the game, and everything, and even non-story stuff is on the table. It's basically we're allowed to talk about anything and everything without worrying about us ruining the experience for you. Going through chronological order, I think here's the best analogy I can give to you. It's like the old review system at game trailers. We were forced to write in a certain order: intro, story, gameplay, design, presentation, which is story or visuals and music, and a conclusion. The problem with that is to write more organically, to write more naturally for a lot of people. Some thoughts are interwoven. Like, how do you talk about gameplay but not mention some design aspects? It feels too clinical at some point, almost like you, for the sake of being. I don't want to say this word. I think it's just impractical. Is probably the best way to put it, because you're forcing yourself to separate thoughts just for the sake of breaking them into sections. It's like too logistical. It's like. I was gonna say it's not pedantic's the wrong word. It's just too, it's too clinical is the best way to put it.
Sure.
And if I'm talking about story in a part, but like, but there's this gameplay mechanic that really, like the trust, they really immerse you in it. But that's a gameplay / a design choice. Am I supposed to talk about the story in a section, and then like two paragraphs later or 2 sections later, it's like, now I'm in the gameplay. Let me talk about the trust. Do you remember the story? Well, the trust further enhanced the story, but like, why did I just talk about it when I was talking about story? Like, or basically you can't do that. Same thing with spoiler mode. If we start talking about a point, it's like, well, I need to jump over to here. You can't, because chronologically we aren't there yet. So like, it's these weird stipulations that like kind of stymie the discussion. It doesn't allow it to naturally happen. And
I'd rather we just talk about whatever comes up naturally for us. I
swear I understand the reason though. You want to make sure we don't miss something, because every time we do one of these,
that's what I was
there's probably
say.
something like, damn it, you didn't talk about this. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes it's okay. Like, looking at this right now, we are at 1 hour. We're at the 2 hour mark. We're almost done here. We got 2 more questions. We're 2 hours of the spoiler mode. It's like, I understand, like, you want everything, and like, I would give it to you, but like, sometimes things get forgotten. And I think it's better to do it this way and cover a lot of stuff. It might not be everything because we forgot something. But rather than having a more dull, like less emotional, more fragmented discussion, because we got to make a list of everything. Also, not to pass the buck, but if there's something you really want us to talk about, you just ask about it. Like, I know not every spoiler mode we give you that opportunity, but I'm reading your last section here. Here's your question. Only wish the other allies had time to go through the story, and you asked about where's Ben, and we just answered that. So your question was, where's Ben? And it's like,
he's been
if
busy.
there's something we didn't talk about, why don't you ask your question? And you can see what everyone else asks. You can look through the questions, and if they ask what you're going to ask, cool. And if it hasn't been asked, ask it. So I don't know. I know your counter would be, I can't ask multiple questions. I have multiple things I want you to talk about. So I don't know. Then go ahead, ask multiple questions. I mean, whatever. Like, it happens anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
Yeah, we just talk about what we want to talk about. We try to talk about everything. Stuff's gonna get left out no matter what, but doing our best.
Yeah. Before we circle back to Shankly, our last chronological question. I actually went in reverse chronological order. This is no, I did. I went in the right order. Sorry. This was our most recent question, which means it is the last question from Casper. Kind of retread some familiar ground, but I will ask this still. Maybe there's something we forgot. Hey guys, longtime patron, first time asker. What did you think of the overall story? ... Damiani mentioned the story dragged on a bit, which I agree with. Also, Xenos is not dead, right? He's just laying there at the end. Will we see more of him in the future? He still felt pointless as a character.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you and Damiani. Kind of something's dragging. I hope Xenos is dead. But at the same time, I think about how much I enjoy the story in this game. Like, maybe they can make Xenos work for some way for me and, like, work better. Like, I don't hate Xenos or anything like that, but he was just, like, the least interested I was in a lot of the story. But maybe they can make him... I mean, I hope he's dead, but if he comes back, maybe they can make him even more enticing.
I give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they have some great plans for Xenos. They bring him back. Yep. Who knows? Who knows? I will elaborate on one last thing. I'm starting to lose not getting dry voice here, and I ran out of water. We're almost done though. Dragging on. I can be a little bit more specific now because I'm not beholden by courtesy of not spoiling stuff. The parts that drag on are the moon, after the Zodiac part, and after you get to the Loporrits on the spaceship. That Loporrit section goes on for fucking ever. As much as I love the music, as much as I love them, as much as I love the Final Fantasy IV references, that shit went on for way too fucking long. Garlemald is very uneven in its pacing. It has some very interesting points. The beginning's kind of interesting. The sister storyline, which is fucking like brutally like tragic. There's some interesting points of the survivors of the Garlemald catastrophe with that fucking general dude, the 12 armor like dude, like committing suicide.
The judge guy.
Yeah, like it goes fucking dark. The body swap stuff was cool, but there was some pacing in between that just dragged on. It felt like the imprisonment part dragged on for way too long as well. Also, I couldn't put this into enough words to like. That felt like it wouldn't derail the review at a point, and I was worried it'd get too specifically narrow-minded on a single point. One of the smallest disappointments for me was Garlemald didn't feel like the best payoff after all these years of building up to it. Sure. It kind of happened, as I said, in side quests. Like, the Bozia stuff covers, like, more of it. If you don't play that, you're not getting a lot of the story, like, about the conflict. In terms of like just presented in Endwalker, it felt a tiny bit shortchanged on that.
I always wish we saw it in its prime more. The city.
I kind of wish that, or I kind of wish there was like something a little bit more to it. Also, the one section of Ultima Thule dragged on. The second region with the Ia,
the ghost
people dragged on a little too long. I was like, I get it.
Sure,
we can kind of move on now. Like, we got, I see how big the zone is. We got a lot to go here. I'm like,
you take out like one or two quests.
It's not that they're bad. They just needed to trim it a little bit because Endwalker was already so long. Endwalker's the freaking longest thing. Long. And it's like, you made your point. Like, you could trim out a little. Maybe it's just like a product of being an MMO. Like, there's just naturally going to be a little bit padding here and there. But yeah, it was. Those were like the three main areas that I can recall offhand. I was like, we can move on. We can speed it up just a tiny bit. Yeah. And now for Shankly. I told Shankly I will just read their whole thing because they're middle of playing the game and like it's the end. You know what? We're here. Let's do it.
Okay.
First and foremost, do you think the scope of the story was too large? Maybe a tiny bit. I'm going to answer that real quick. Just a tiny bit. I've seen some theories that maybe this expansion could have been broken into 2, and maybe that was even the original plan, and they just wanted to get it over, like they wanted to get it over with.
Yeah, they want to move on.
But honestly, I was impressed that they were able to do so much. Like those sections that we were complaining about were really like the only casualties of this game in terms of pacing. That's what I'm.
And it like wasn't that big of a deal to me.
Yeah, that's what I meant by Shadowbringers had better pacing. While it had a few parts that dragged on, it was a little bit more coherent from start to finish, and it was a little bit more of a personal tale. And it just had a little bit more focus in every moment to moment. Anyway. We've gone from intercontinental political skirmishes to sundered shards of the source. But before Endwalker, everything still revolved around the planet and its complicated history. Boarding a rocket ship and blasting off to the furthest reaches of outer space in a world that is still using chocobo-drawn carriages as a legitimate method of travel is just going too far for me. The moon, at least, is still a satellite of the planet and has a history in FF lore, but bringing in multiple civilizations from far-flung planets and traversing a foreign star made up of the memories of these falling societies was just too much, in my opinion. I would have much preferred the story stayed centralized to the source and its reflections, with the ethereal sea being the final zone, still being mystical and fantastical while centralized to the source. I understand the need for Medion to traverse to the other stars for the direction that they took the story, but I felt they could have accomplished the same effect by having her travel to the downtrodden societies across the source and its many reflections rather than turning the story into a spacewalking adventure. Building upon the story, what did you guys think of the characters? I mean, we kind of already talked about that, so we kind of said our piece. I love that Kryl finally got brought more into the fold after being a background piece for so long. We didn't really talk a lot about Kryl. Hey, we got to see Kryl's hair. You know, that was really nice.
That's true. Took the hood off.
Thancred and Y'shtola still feel like finished articles without much room to grow. I'm going to say that's very true. Because before this, I thought Thancred was easily going to be one of the ripest characters for being killed off. Because I was like,
I thought he was
after Shadowbringers, like, where do you go with this character at this point? And they both seem like they are seeking means to return to the first. Thancred to be with Reen and Y'shtola due to their thirst for knowledge. Y'shtola is seeking to go anywhere. She wants to go to all the shards. It's not just the source, but yes. Urianger feels like his character arc completed with this expansion, finally fully coming to terms with Moonbreeda's passing and his grief over it. Estinian likewise seems like he is accepted and is content with his lot in life, although perhaps he still feels a draw to the remaining dragons and their machinations across the source and beyond. The twins have finished what their grandfather began and are now starting to help rebuild the world after playing their parts in saving it. Graha was a finished article before he even joined us, his story being completed in 5.3. But that moment of him reverting to the Crystal Exarch in order to protect the citizens of Radz-at-Han show that despite his wanton, adventurous personality, he was born to lead. See, same conclusion there. Where do you see these characters going from here? We kind of already talked about this. Is it time to retire the Scions as main characters and begin with a new cast? We talked about that well. What do you think of the new characters we were introduced to, such as Hermes, Medion, etc.? We talked about most of those as well. How about those dungeons and fight designs? We didn't really talk about this, actually. They were fantastic in my mind. While the first two dungeons were a bit derivative of one another, overall, each of the trials and dungeons felt quite unique and brought new mechanics and interesting wrinkles into the game. Yeah, how did you feel about the dungeons and the trials?
I really liked
mechanically?
I guess thematically, the Tower of Zot and Babel are kind of similar at some points. I like the train at the beginning of Tower of Babel and stuff like that. That made it feel different. I really like that a lot of the characters were in the dungeons with you. Also, like the NPCs. I mean, I don't think I've done all the 90 dungeons yet because I immediately started.
It's only 2 of them
after I finished. Yeah, I don't think I've done those yet, but I really liked the one you do with like Emmett Selk and stuff like that.
Oh gosh,
like all the different like environments,
Cretisis,
biomes. I guess I really like that one. That was cool. I really like the boss that has the magnet stuff, the plus and minus. I just think that's really fun mechanic.
Yeah,
I really like that one.
It's been
but yeah, I thought they were great so far. I had a good time.
Kesis Hyperborearia. I think that's how you pronounce that dungeon.
Oh, the Magus sisters, like where you fight all 3 of them. I thought that was really cool.
I was a bit disappointed. I mean, they still could technically be trial fights down the road, but I was disappointed that them and Anima were not trials. But then again, I was like, what the trials were, I was like, oh, they had bigger things.
Oh, yeah. Anima was cool, dude. You, like, do the top and the bottom.
It was cool to see him, and it was nice they did it, but, like, the Oblivion...
I thought he was going to be a trial,
Oblivion is so less visceral looking in Endwalker compared to the Final Fantasy X version. Like, 10, he starts, like... It gets so brutal. I'm like, this was just like... I was like, okay, I get it. You tried, but, you know, we don't have 10 years to sit around waiting for you to do your animation. Yeah,
anything that's a summon, I expect to be a trial usually. But it's just a dungeon boss.
I mean, mechanically, I loved how... not Hades. Zodiark introduced this rotating platform mechanic.
That was cool. You're right.
I liked having to look up into the sky for star telegraphs, not only for Zodiark, but for the level 85 for Thavnair, the Thavnair dungeon, Vanaspati. Same thing. You gotta look at the meteors crashing down to see the patterns. It's just looking in a different place. As simple as that. And like, putting that together on the fly in like a short reaction time was kind of nice. The dungeons, I'm kind of with you. I'm a big Final Fantasy IV fan. It was nice to see Tower Zot and Tower of Babel represented. They're also very like not visually amazing looking, like they're like intimidating, but like they weren't that amazing looking even in their source games. So it's like it's okay, like it's cool, nice enemy nods here. We already talked about that. I mean, I love Vadaspati because it was kind of like a mixture of a Holminster Switch, like kind of a tribute to that dungeon, I guess is a better way to put it. And like just seeing people. The narrative, like the enemies you're fighting are literally the people being affected by Dynamis. I was like, ooh, shit, this is brutal.
The elephant people that Blood doesn't like because of the trunks.
Blood, I saw that.
I love that Blood doesn't like them.
Tia Scope going down into the ethereal sea, as we were talking about, like having all these spirits come to fighting these old enemy spirits. It's like, oh my gosh, the dead ends. Medion taking us through. I think it wasn't as impactful as the final dungeon of not Endwalker of Shadowbringers. It wasn't. It wasn't as impactful to me as Amarat. I think Amarat was a little bit more impactful, but still going for the same effect with Medion guiding us through the different civilizations that fell.
Yeah, that collapsed. Yeah, that was cool.
And cool mechanics.
Oh, dude. The mechanic, I like the mechanic you do with Mia where the planets like crash.
Oh,
it just looked, it reminded me of Supernova. Of course, I was into
it. The planet crashing mechanic, and also that's very likely going to be an extreme version of that at some point. It's going to be sick,
crazy.
And then like the 2 post-90 dungeons are really good, Brad.
Cool, yeah. I can't wait to do
the Stigma Dreamscape in particular, because the dungeon is basically the Omicron versus Dragon War. It's like a virtual reality, a holodeck version of it. Like you're not really there, but like you're reliving it. So cool. I can't wait for you to like. You should when you check that out. It's pretty cool and cool music. So yeah, like pretty strong dungeons, and like Heidelin as well, having the tidal wave mechanic and the crystals was like pretty cool to have. And her changing,
she just looked awesome.
Changing stances,
she like looked so good. That like a mono art character. Like, they did that with the Warrior of Light, too, in 5.3 or whatever. They looked really good.
So sick. All right. Almost done with their thing here. The slight changes of the few classes I've played, Machinist, Dark, and Dragoon, have all felt like smooth improvements on their previous iterations. Are you guys satisfied with the changes to your respective classes? That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I've only played Ninja. It was the only old one I've played, and I think Ninja's pretty fun. I like the new... I forgot what they call it, the lightning move, forked Raiju, I think, and stuff like that. I think that's a cool mechanic. I mean, it's just more Naruto shit, so I'm in for it. But so far, I've liked Reaper a lot.
Oh,
I think it's really fun.
Reaper's fun.
I like that you have Devil Trigger and stuff. Like, that's super sick.
Reaper is very fun to play.
But yeah, I haven't played any of the tanks. Like, I used to know Dark Knight pretty well. I haven't touched it at all.
Yeah, they definitely feel, for the most part, the ones I played, just extensions of the Shadowbringers version, which is what they basically said they were going for. I think Healer's got, I mean, obviously Summoner got the biggest change. We already talked a little bit about Summoner, and thanks to Pixelated for going a little bit more in depth on it too. Healers, I feel also got the next probably biggest change because, may not Astro, but the other, Scholar and White Mage, because they got put on the 1.5 GCD as well, the faster GCD, so it allows single weaves between each GCD now, which kind of like offers a little bit more variety, and it getting weaned off, especially as a White Mage main, getting weaned off the Dia 30-second windows has been a little bit of like a learning curve, but like it's nice to realize there is some flexibility now in when I can weave things and to work around optimization. It's like, ooh, this kind of makes this class a little bit more fun. It adds a little bit. It's not the most complex job to play. I'm not going to say, oh, it's so hard to play White Mage now. It's not. But like it requires a tiny bit of thought now. You can't just like spam, especially when you're trying to do DPS optimization. Like, can't spam glare. I mean, you still are spamming glare, but like you can now, I can throw up a Benison now, or here's the tank buster. I don't have to clip to throw up a shield thing. It's just, it flows better. Basically, it just flows a little bit better, and it affords you more flexibility now instead of having to wait for your 30-second windows to what two things am I double weaving here? Because it's the only time I can double weave unless I'm gonna clip. Oh no! And Scholar Scholar was getting shit on before the expansion based on the media tour
came out
info, and unrightfully so. Like it in Dark Knight we're getting like trashed on, and it looks like so far they're perfectly fine. They're actually pretty good. The only thing I've seen so far is that Dark Knight. What tank job?
Maybe it's a little too similar.
Sorry, I got it wrong. Not Dark Knight. Shit, what was the or Gunbreaker? I think it was the one. No, I'm wrong. Anyway, sorry. Gunbreaker is still getting trashed on. I'm sorry. There people are very unhappy with. There's some people are happy with Dark Knight. There's some people not happy with Dark Knight. I don't play Dark Knight enough to really give you that answer, but like Dark Knight seems to be a point of contention, and I'm seeing a lot of like talk around which job was kind of being like a little bit concerning. Was maybe it was Dragoon? I don't know. It's like I think anything's just too early right now. If anything, things feel fine for casual content, and like we don't have a raid tier. Like the raid tier has not properly started. We have the story mode. But we don't have Savage, and you need Savage to really judge anything. But I mean, the Summoner rework seems like it worked for the best. White Mage feels more fun to play. I mean, the Lily ability, I know why they give it now, because there's a lot of multiple raid-wide AoE abilities from bosses now. It's like, drop that thing. Each hit heals everybody. It's very nice to have now. I was like, oh, I get why they use that. The Aqua Veils is nice to have another tank shield, basically, for tank busters. It's like, oh, cool. I'm not... Benison's meager little protection can be buffed a little bit by having Aqua Veil up as well, like a little bit bonus of a shield. But anyway, yeah, we don't need... I need more time to really process the jobs.
Oh, yeah. I haven't delved deep at all.
But Reaper's fun. As I said, Reaper's fun. Sage is fun. Sage is pretty cool to play. We'll see how it pans out. We already talked about the Xenos fight, Shankly. Do we think we could see an EX Savage version of a Xenos fight? I hope not. I mean, it's possible, but please fucking no. Don't do that. What type of rewards might it give out? Deletes your game. And with the expansion of the trust system, do you think we might be beginning to see trust available for all story fights moving forward? Actually, yes. Yoshi P just announced that very soon there's going to be a major overhaul to the MSQ roulette. MSQ roulette is the Praetorium and Castrum Meridirium, whatever the Castrum M, whatever it's called. And it sounds like that potentially maybe this will be the first step in introducing trust to older content, but they're absolutely going to start bringing trust into older content at some point, or they're going to rework older MSQ stuff to eventually do a trust. Like they're definitely going that way. I think they're expanding the amount of content you can do with trust down the line. Do you think Emmett's final speech was a wink at nod where we're heading next? Yes. We definitely agree with that, or at least think some of it. Finally, the most important, there was one thing we all wanted, and we know we're getting, but it just didn't happen this expansion, Blitzball.
Maybe.
We were supposed to have gotten Blitzball already. It was supposed to be the new PvP mode, and we were lied to. I'm kidding. Anyway, they also just want to finish up by saying spearfishing is awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Love and respect. So...
Thank you.
That is everything. That is all our patron questions.
That's all.
We went through all of them. Woof. And
dude, yeah.
Hopefully we went through as much as you really wanted us to go through. I feel like we went through a lot.
Yeah. This is like the longest spoiler mode I've ever been on that I can recall.
Yeah. So if we weren't thorough enough, I'm sorry that 2 hours and 20 minutes wasn't enough time. I think it's around, actually the recording says 2:20. It might be a little shorter than that, but over 2 hours. If over 2 hours wasn't enough, you know what? I'm sorry. You know what? I promise you, if you get us to $35,000 on Patreon, Brad and I will do a second spoiler mode for Endwalker.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, we will let you resubmit. You'll do more questions. Any question we can answer, you can submit. I will promise you, I will get at least one guest who's an expert in lore to help us out. So the questions we struggle for, they can chime in and help us out, so we can better answer your questions. I will promise you that you get us above $35,000 on Patreon by the end of this month. By the end of December, when we're clocking out at the end of this month, you'll get that extra spoiler mode. But otherwise, you'll have to just do with just over 2 hours of Brad and I talking.
Yeah.
As I said, thank you, Brad, for spending so much time with me.
Yeah.
And for putting in the time to play through this with everything else you were doing and stuff.
I mean, I would have done this
insane.
anyways. I was super excited for this.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone, who submitted your questions. Like, those were really good questions, and you pretty much ran the gamut of everything I would have hoped to talk about, because I can't think of anything else off the top of my moment. Off the top of my head at this moment. I'm getting a little worn out today. And if you're still, obviously, hopefully if you're watching this, you have played through Endwalker. Hopefully you'll enjoy the content that is to come. There's still patches, and I'm very excited to see with 6.1 what the MSQ stuff's going to be, because we're getting a new storyline, and who the heck knows what we're doing. But it's only a few months away. We'll get some indication of where we'll be heading. It won't be a mystery for that much longer. So, good stuff. Thank you, all our $1 patrons who are supporting us, and hope you enjoy all of our other spoiler modes that are up. So be sure to check them out if you're a $1 patron. And anything else, Brad? Or are we good?
No, that's it. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, just like Endwalker, we're wrapping this up here. So thank you again, and see you next time.